Welcome. Welcome to the Calexico City Council, Calexico Redevelopment Successor Agency, Calexico Financing Authority regular meeting agenda. Today is Wednesday, March 21st, 2018, and it is approximately 5:40 p.m. City Clerk, roll call, please.
Mayor Hurtado?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Pacheco is absent. Councilmember Escobar is absent. Councilmember Hodge?
Here.
Councilmember Real?
Here.
We have a quorum, Mayor.
Thank you. Before we go into closed session, I need to read about public comments. Do we have any public comments today?
No.
That'll be for later? Okay. Public comments not to exceed 3 minutes. This is the time for the public to address the City Council on closed session items only. The mayor will recognize you, and when you come to the microphone, please state your name and place of residence for the record. While members of the public are encouraged to participate, it is unlawful to disturb or delay the council meeting with personal or slanderous remarks. The City Council is prohibited by state law from taking action or discussing items not included on the printed agenda. Please direct your questions and comments to the City Council. Being that we have no public comments, we will, City Clerk, if you'd like to take note that Councilman Pacheco has just arrived. However, Councilman Pacheco, we will be going into closed session now. Good. Thank you. Do you need this back, Eddie?
Oh, yeah.
Our tardiness. Here we go. Good afternoon. Welcome. Welcome to the Calexico City Council, Calexico Redevelopment Agency, Successor Agency, Calexico Financing Authority, regular meeting agenda. Today is Wednesday, March 21st, and we do apologize. It is already 7 p.m., I believe, almost. Somebody needs to change the clock. We do have a report from our city attorney, I believe, for closed session, please.
Thank you. City Councilman in closed session received direction, but no reportable actions were taken. Thank you.
Thank you so much. City Clerk, would you like to help us out with roll call?
Mayor Hurtado?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Pacheco?
Here.
Councilmember Escobar?
Here.
Councilmember Hodge?
Here.
Councilmember Real?
Here.
We have a quorum, Mayor.
Thank you so much. Today we have a special guest I'm going to ask to help us to start off the Pledge of Allegiance. Eddie? Eddie, can you help us with the Pledge of Allegiance today? Yeah? Eddie?
Hey, Eddie.
Help him out there.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Today we're going to do something a little different. Today we're going to first have an invocation, and after that we'll have another small, different part. Hello.
Do you mind bowing your hearts with me, please? We ask the Lord to bless this council meeting. Heavenly Father, we just want to thank you so much for this beautiful day and the opportunity to come before you and recognize you, Lord God, that you're in control of it all. But I ask you, Lord God, to give the council members here wisdom. I thank you for each of them. I thank you for the city attorney and the city manager, and most of all, Lord, we thank you so much for our clerks. We know that we have so much to depend upon those that get the agendas and things ready for us, Lord God. But Lord God, as we go through this meeting, as these council members that are here, Lord God, to serve the people of Calexico, give them wisdom and guidance, Lord God, as they listen to and they make decisions about this great city of Calexico. I just want to thank you, Lord God, for the people and how they represent them well, Lord God. I ask you to bless this time together. In your name, Jesus. Amen. Amen.
Thank you so much.
Continue to stand.
At this time, we'd like to ask our city staff and those who wish to stand, we're going to recite our city mission statement. City staff and whoever wishes. I'll start it. Together, we pledge to provide effective and efficient services in a courteous and respectful manner to improve the quality of life for all in our unique border community. Viva Calexico!
Thank you.
Very good. That's what he'll be able to do. I mean, he's able to comment on what he wants.
Thank you, City Manager.
The rush.
Ensuring that we
That's the wrong part of it.
stick to our pledge.
Yeah, that part's the wrong part of it.
Okay, I need an approval for the agenda, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Real, seconded by Mr. Pacheco. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, moving on, the announcements. These proceedings may be viewed on the City of Calexico website at www.calexico.ca.gov the Friday following the City Council meeting. Today, we're going to have a few presentations, so we will start with our first presentation, and we have them here right in front. A proclamation from the city declaring Down Syndrome Day, March 21st, 2018. So I'm going to need a little help, gentlemen. Just a second. Did you guys get that?
No, not that one. Yeah.
Thank you. Got it. Whereas the City of Calexico declares March 21st, 2018 as Down Syndrome Day and encourages our health community to work together to promote respect and inclusion of individuals with Down syndrome and to celebrate their accomplishments and contributions.
And approximately 1 in every 691 children are born with Down syndrome. And whereas Down syndrome occurs in people of all races and economic levels, and
whereas there are over 400,000 individuals living with Down syndrome in the United States, and whereas people with Down syndrome attend school, work, participate in decisions that affect them, and contribute to society in many wonderful ways, and
whereas through public awareness, the City of Calexico celebrates the hard work and progress made by parents, self-advocates, medical professionals, researchers, educators, and many nonprofit organizations, and
Whereas despite dramatic increases in lifespan and intellectual ability in the United States, there is still much work to be done regarding the rights of equality, inclusion, education, and medical care, research and support of people with Down syndrome.
Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Maria Hurtado, Mayor of the City of Calexico, do hereby proclaim March 21st, 2018 as World Down Syndrome Day 2018 in Calexico, California, and urge all citizens, government agencies, public and private institutions, and businesses to join, celebrate, and support and empower people with Down syndrome and those supporting them, to advocate for their rights and opportunities to make meaningful contributions and have opportunities to contribute to the community and live valued lives, included on a full and equal basis with others in all aspects of society. In witness whereof, I hereto affix my signature and official seal of the City of Calexico on the 21st day of March, 2018.
Representing the Calexico Down Syndrome and the National Down Syndrome Society. We want to thank the City of Calexico. We want to thank the school district and Heffernan. This is the second year we do this. I don't know if you've been watching TV. It's all over the news. This thing is getting bigger. It was very good today. Eddie was the honorary principal at Aurora High. We went through all the classrooms. He was very strict on the kids, watching that they were awake, that they didn't have any cell phones. It was very fun. Last time, Calexico High School did a great presentation. The drum line, the ladies, they danced. And we were very happy that there were like 10 kids there, with Down syndrome. He was very happy. We just came from Heffernan. We want to thank you very much, Mayor, City Council. Like you said, Eddie is a smart guy. We want to especially thank the Calexico Police Department. This is the second time they gave Eddie the ride-along, and that's the wish that he wanted. What do you want for this day? I want to ride with the police department. He did it again today.
Javier,
Thank you.
Javier.
Oh, yes, sir.
10 seconds, just, what does that mean?
Yeah, today everybody wears these kind of socks, and these kind of socks are they call crazy socks, because the 21st chromosome breaks into 3 parts. They look like socks. So this is, we're hoping that every year more people wear them on this day. Thank you.
Thank you very much and congratulations. Alrighty, next is a proclamation honoring Autism Awareness Month, April 2018, and World Autism Awareness Day, April 2nd, 2018. Aquí estaba esta muchacha, ¿no? Not here, huh? ¿Dónde está? Oh. Okay, here we go. Whereas autism is a permanent neurological disorder that becomes visible in the early stages of infancy. It is a disorder that does not discriminate against gender, race, or social status. Autism is a disorder characterized by the way it affects social, behavioral, and communicative abilities in children and people affected since birth. People with autism display certain behaviors such as inability to have normal social interactions, atypical learning abilities, and special interests on certain topics. Having routine activities or schedules and the difficulty to process sensory information are also predominant symptoms.
Whereas, considering that at the rate that more professionals are becoming experts in diagnosing autism, more children are being diagnosed on the spectrum. This results in 1 in 54 children at a national level being on the spectrum, and the figures show that in the United States, there are 1.5 million people affected by this disorder. In the Imperial Valley alone, there are 2,000 families who are affected by autism spectrum disorder. Whereas, considering that the rate of autism is high in all regions of the world, and the lack of comprehension produces strong repercussions against children, their families, and their community, stigmatization and discrimination associated in the diversity within the neurological scope continue to be the main obstacles and challenges that people with autism face.
Whereas considering that there is no cure for autism, it is documented that if people with autism receive the proper treatment at an early age and continually throughout their life, they will live lives that will allow them to integrate socially and eventually branch into the workforce. Helping control their symptoms and stopping their disability from progressing can help people with autism cope with daily activities that are often impossible for them to do.
Whereas considering that people with autism require special services and community support to ensure that their health and security is taken care of, families also require support because of the psychological and financial strain that comes with having a child with autism.
Whereas considering that the United Nations General Assembly declared in unanimity April 2nd as World Autism Awareness Day in Article A/RES/62/139 in order to highlight the need for contribution to the betterment of quality of life for people with autism so that they can live fulfilling lives as members of society.
Now therefore be it resolved that I, Maria Hurtado, Mayor of the City of Calexico, do proclaim April 2018 as National Autism Awareness Month and April 2nd, 2018 as World Autism Day in the City of Calexico, and encourage that all employees and residents participate in the activities within National Autism Awareness Month within our municipality with the intent to become better educated on autism and create a better community for people with autism. In witness whereof, I hereto affix my signature and official seal of the City of Calexico on this 21st day of March, 2018. There's usually somebody who comes here for that. Is that her? Did you want to say something? Sure. Yeah, okay.
Tania Valadez. I'm here representing our nonprofit organization. It's Auti Fundación, and I am part of the community of parenting. Is in the autism spectrum. We absolutely believe that this is a blessing, and we are truly thankful for the opportunity to spread awareness. It's always a great opportunity to not only spread awareness of autism, but every other diversity in our community. Let's just go ahead and embrace and love everybody, and that's the main point in the spirit. Thank you so much.
Can I ask you a question? I understand that during the month for autism, there's a certain bulb color for your house.
Yes, we celebrate pretty much the month with the color blue. And I believe one of the buildings in Calexico is going to be light up blue. That was my impression.
We're going to light up the city blue, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, I just mentioned it.
Thanks. I think that's important. That brings awareness. Even,
Yeah.
You know, just a very simple way for everybody to be able to do it.
I have one question. And as far as the nonprofit that you guys have, how could people connect with you guys? Is there a Facebook page? Is there?
We do have a Facebook page and website as well. It's autism. I'm sorry, not autism. Auti Fundación. It's in Mexicali and also here. It's a nonprofit organization. It's the same name. It's just based here in the States and over there in Mexicali. We spread awareness, and we also spread a lot of information to the parenting, a lot of education to them as far for techniques and healthy foods, all kinds of resources that we have. And on Facebook, you can find us with Auti Fundación, or also our president, which is Karina Kulhacha. Sorry, it's a hard last name. And yeah, so the website is, once again, autifundacion.org, and Facebook page, Auti Fundación. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Alrighty. Okay. Last but not least, next. Alrighty, our next presentation is a very important one for our city. We have a presentation for the Employee of the Quarter. And I believe I'm going to have help from our city manager to describe, or actually, here comes Roz. She's got the goods for all of us. Drum roll.
Good evening. Rosalind Guerrero, Human Resources Risk Management Manager. This is one of the times that we like to get together once a quarter and recognize an employee who has been working for the city for quite some time, and also in following the mission statement for the city of Calexico, where we want to provide effective and efficient services, be courteous and respectful, as well improve the quality of life. And our employees, what we're looking for is someone who's nominated, who has gone beyond doing what their job description requires. And we received several nominations. We received, actually reviewed 3. The committee reviewed 3 nominations for the quarter of January through March 2018. The employee that's recognized tonight will receive a $150 cash reward as well as a certificate of recognition. The comments that the committee made of this employee were that he led by example, he created a teamwork environment, and he trained core workers and also prevention. And I'll explain to you why. What we saw in the nomination was that the employee selected for this quarter works in the water treatment plant. He assisted in submitting monthly reports, water flow reports, and researching options for changing the use of chlorine gas to liquid bleach for disinfection purposes. He demonstrated initiative in preparing the reports that were previously prepared by another employee, but he also went out and he trained his co-workers, so that way they also would know how to do the reports and created a teamwork environment. He demonstrated leadership. The city received an unannounced visit by a state inspector. He took the initiative by meeting with the inspector, taking him around. And I understand we passed the inspection. Congratulations. Great job. The employee continues to provide exceptional customer service and is always courteous, respectful, and friendly to coworkers, vendors, contractors, and the general public. It is my pleasure to announce that this quarter nomination goes to Jose Alvarado, who is here with us. Please join me, Jose. Jose is a water treatment plant operator 3 who has worked for the city for approximately 15.5 years. Congratulations, Jose.
Good job.
The official city photographer, I guess, now. Yeah.
I would just like to, I'm a little shy. I would like to say thank you to everybody that voted me or thought that I did a good job. And I would like to say a special thank you to Ms. Liliana Falomir. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations, Jose.
A handshake all the way.
And we really do enjoy seeing this happen. We didn't practice this very much before, but it's really nice. It is very important to do so too, so thank you. Good choice. Good job. All righty, I understand now also we are going to have a presentation from the chief, but I believe maybe I might need to wait, City Attorney, until I get to the comment section, or can I go ahead and... What if I just go ahead and read our housekeeping thing here, and then we'll have him after? Yeah? Yeah? All righty. We're down to now the public comments portion of the agenda. Note not to exceed 3 minutes. This is the time for the public to address the City Council on any item not appearing on the agenda that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. The mayor will recognize you, and when you come to the microphone, please state your name and place of residence for the record. While members of the public are encouraged to participate, it is unlawful to disturb or delay the council meeting with personal or slanderous remarks. If the item you wish to comment on is a consent item, please comment now. The City Council is prohibited by state law from taking action or discussing items not included on the printed agenda. If the item you wish to comment on is on the public portion of the agenda, we will take your comment when you get to that item on the agenda. Please direct your questions and comments to the City Council. Chief Gomez, would you like to, I believe you were going to be giving us a presentation? Yeah. We're going to allow you to take this time now, but floor is yours. Oh, yeah.
Good evening, Police Chief. Reggie Gomez, Calexico PD. Often you've heard about our community-oriented policing projects that we do, and part of the phrase community-oriented policing is not only police but community. And we'd like to take the opportunity to recognize some stakeholders with the community that have helped us accomplish these programs, that without them, these programs wouldn't or couldn't have even taken place. So, Sergeant Legaspi will be presenting the... He almost got away.
Glad I brought my glasses. I wasn't thinking to bring them.
Well, I brought an extra
Where are you
pair.
going?
Well, like the chief said, in order for us to do a successful event out there, it's the businesses out there that helps us out. And we've done this for many years. I think this is the first time that we're actually going to give an appreciation plaque to these businesses, these entities, agencies, restaurants, and the reach that has been there for us throughout many, many years. This is not the only year that they've been there for us. They've been around for about 11 years. So, Chief. Okay, first of all, I'd like to present this plaque, or the chief and I would like to present this plaque to Santa Claus. Okay, we'll call him Santa Claus. Okay, guess who Santa Claus is?
Santa Claus.
We blew his cover. This is Chuck Cloud, who played Santa Claus for us
All right.
for many, many years.
He travels by helicopter, right?
I always thought it was John Renison for some reason.
And Mrs. Claus is out there. Mrs. Claus, come on up here.
Mrs. Claus, yes, can't forget her. She's the prettiest Mrs. Claus.
For the value you bring to our team, for the strengths that help build our success, and for your commitment to each and every one of us. You are greatly appreciated. Thank you for your participation in our annual Kids and Badges community event 2017. From the Calexico Police Department to Santa Claus, Chuck Cloud. All right. We've all been good, Chuck. Number two, I'd like to give this presentation to one of our #1 coffee making entities here in the city of Calexico. Guess who? Starbucks. All right. Starbucks. They helped us out with the coffee with a cop. So yeah, we did. So thank you, Starbucks. The representative of Starbucks, please come up. Where's the free coffee? The coffee?
We need a Starbucks on the east side of town.
Right, Starbucks. Way to go, Starbucks. We need a Starbucks slogan there.
Have you guys seen Mr. Hodge and Mr. Benny Hornet there at all?
Only during election season, a lot. Awarded to Starbucks, the power of one. Sounds like the Power Rangers here. If fearless and focused is the formidable but the power of many working together is better. Thank you from the Calexico Police Department, Coffee with a Cop 2017. Yeah. Well, for the next plaque, it's going to be Santa's reindeer that's going to be coming up. You know, every year, every time I call REACH, they've never said no. And it's weird because I've talked to Border Patrol, I've talked to other agencies, and they said when they try to get a helicopter, for them it's like the act of God. In order for them, it's memos after memos after memos to Washington. But REACH, all it takes is one simple phone call, and I'll get a call back within 30 minutes, and they're always there for us, for kids and badges. Representative of REACH, please come up. The letters are getting smaller and smaller. Together, EAR is a performance task at a rate that makes machines run quicker, smoother, and more efficiently. As a team of EARs works together in unison behind the scenes, they are moving in different directions and at a different speed. Linked together, they each have their own responsibility, but the same goal. You are an integral part of our team, allowing us to work better together and in turn driving us to success. Thank you for your participation in our annual community events for the past 11, 12, 13 years, I believe. For this year's 2017, last year's 2017, from the Calexico Police Department, REACH Air Medical Service. Thank you.
Where's the city photographer? Punched out?
There goes Rudolph. Rudolph the red one's there. Another awesome business that's been around for many years, especially for kids and badges. Like I said, when it came to REACH, every time we call this one business, they've never said no to us. They've always assisted us in giving up treats and toys and cakes and drinks and so forth to the kids every year during December for kids and badges. And this is for Walmart. Can I have the representative of Walmart please come up?
Thank you, Walmart.
Together we can achieve greater results, break down barriers, promote positive reinforcement, discover the perfect solution, bring excitement to every day, make an impact in the community, educate one another, help those in need, make a difference through teamwork. All things are possible. Thank you for your participation in our annual Kids and Badges community events from the Calexico Police Department, Walmart. We're going to have a photo in the building, right? When you walk into Walmart, we're going to be there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Always thank you.
Thank you. Another assistance that assisted us in the Kids and Badge program. A remarkable person, very nice. First time I've met him. He is the person that told us that one 30-minute conversation that I can bring a drone to Kids and Badges. He did. And I think REACH really loved the drone flying around the helicopter. Different story. So he came in. It's on YouTube, Kids and Badges 2017. and he's the one that filmed it together, donating his time for us. For centuries, mariners have relied upon the hourglass to mark time, measuring distance, speed, progress towards the goal. Today, the grains of sand represents more than time moving forward. They're your growing skills, building up through commitment and experience. Now we mark your time with us by honoring who you are. Thank you for your contribution and participation in our annual Kids and Badges Community Event 2017 from the Calexico Police Department. Time is priceless, and so are you. Paul's Photography. Thank you, Paul. Every year, this business always assists us in giving out free snow cones or snow cones, Slurpees to our kids. We go out, and basically these are coupons, free coupons that we give to the kids, those that behave. Every time we make contacts with individuals such as a domestic violence situation, there's children involved, or kids that we see outside that are behaving, we give them a free Slurpee coupon, and they love it, especially during the summertime. May I have the 7-Eleven district manager please come up? We've been doing this for how long? We've been doing this for 10 years. 10 years. Together we can achieve greater results, break down barriers, promote positive reinforcement, discover the perfect solution, bring excitement to every day, make an impact in the community, educate one another, help those in need, make a difference. Thank you for inviting the Calexico Police Department to participate in the Free Slurpee Day 2017. Mr. Param Amaroki, 7-Eleven District Manager of Imperial.
A little bit more about 7-Eleven. During the summer, we had a health and safety fair across the street from the police department in Rockwood Plaza. And he generously donated like 20 cases of bottled water. And we passed it out for free to the people that were out in the heat. Thank you again.
Thank you, 7-Eleven.
This is for a business, a restaurant on Imperial Avenue whose family's been around for many, many years. If you ever want to see old and new politicians, they're always having their coffee break there. Okay, what business is that, Mr. Horton?
Starbucks.
Starbucks. Oh, Mr. Hodge, stop
McDonald's.
I'm not there yet.
I'll give you a hint. The coffee's for free if you're a senior citizen.
I wouldn't know that.
McDonald's.
You'll know soon.
Bill Hodge. Bill Hodge.
Danny, Starbucks. Can I have the representative of McDonald's please come up?
McDonald's.
Thank you, McDonald's. How many years have they done it?
They've done it since day one.
Since day one?
Yeah.
Awesome.
She said she done it when she was a little girl.
Participated.
And she knows everybody.
We also recognize that McDonald's does do a lot of other contributions too, so they're awesome. Thank you. It wouldn't be the same without you.
Above and beyond McDonald's for meeting and exceeding the highest standards, you surpassed the expectation and reach for the stars. Thank you for your remarkable participation in our annual Kids and Badges Community Event 2017 from the Calexico Police Department. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And only in Calexico? Like they say, only in Calexico. For this next award, we actually wrote an article for the Chiefs, International Association for the Police Chiefs. They had contacted us and they liked the article, but it wasn't posted for whatever reason. There's been a lot of coffee with a cop here, coffee with a cop there, and everywhere. So we came up, our leadership team came up with a name. Instead of calling it coffee with a cop, we called it raspado with a cop. Everybody, raspado with a cop.
Raspado.
Raspado. Mr. Hodge?
I'll work on it.
Can I have the representative of Coochies come up, please?
Familia Hurtado solamente.
I got to know the family very well. We went out and had dinner, and very, very good family. Very good to hang out with. And thank you for allowing my wife and I to join you for dinner that one time. And an award to Raspados Cuchis. Thank you for your support. Together we make a difference. From the Calexico Police Department, Raspado with a Cop, 2017. Gracias. Eddie, take a picture. Never mind.
We're all ready. Nobody wants it.
You're fired. You're fired. Get off Facebook.
I'd like to really express our gratitude and appreciation for the generous work from our community stakeholders. Without your help, none of these programs could have been successful. Thank you very much. Thank you.
You're right, Chief. Without all the community involvement, we definitely can't handle anything like that. So, very important to recognize. Thank you very, very much to you all. So we are still now under public comments. So, City Clerk, if you'd like to help us out and mention our first person that can come up to speak.
Mr. Van Horton?
Madam Mayor, distinguished members of the City Council, and the public at large. Today I heard something, at first it kind of got me a little taken back, and I use that word mildly. I heard that there was something that might be considered to impede freedom of speech and maybe the freedom of the press that would not be taken away. I heard that there was a memo that was sent out, I guess March the 12th, talking about what can and what will be tolerated in reference to talking to the media. First, I was upset, then I said to myself, calm down. We don't want to get too upset. I brought a copy of the Constitution, which I try to look at every so often. But before I get upset, I'm going to probably request maybe to talk to the city manager to make sure I get my facts straight before I say anything or take any action on that. I'm very much in support of freedom of the press. Also, I'm in very much support of the freedom of speech. These are things that make our democracy great, and this is what we are and what some of us have fought for, but yet we all are a part of this great nation. And I just want to say that I think very highly of the city council, the administration, and I hope that maybe we could come upon an understanding. With that, I'm finished.
Thank you.
Mr. James Beaver.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the council. My name is James Beaver. I'm here as a police commissioner for the city of Calexico, resident of Calexico. I've given each of you council members a letter which is in response to the memorandum from the city manager as far as the police commissioner board members and employees. I did a little research on this, and maybe some of this might apply to employees, but as commissioners, we're directly under the city council. They're public officials. We're not under my interpretation of the government codes, the city ordinances. We're not under, commissioners are not under the jurisdiction of the city manager. That's my interpretation. Maybe we can get legal representation by the city attorneys in some future event. I was also a little bit upset at this memo because freedom of speech is a check and balance for law enforcement, for the Constitution. If it hadn't been for the general public, the medias, and the newspapers, who would check us? And I apply that to myself as well. So freedom of speech to me is sacred. It was a constitutional amendment, First Amendment, and we need to perhaps reward this memorandum differently. I can understand as a city employee, you have to be careful. You cannot be a city employee and then say what you want to say to the general public. But as far as commissioners, we're appointed by the city council, and you're elected officials. We represent you. And I'm making this report as a police commissioner to the city council after serving the city manager, and for you guys to decide what to do on this matter. My most concern is we have still not gotten direction as a police commissioner from a possible conflict of interest. Please bear in mind, I hope I go 1 minute over the 3 minutes, Mayor, before you press the button, but we need an answer on this item and a possible conflict of interest. Right now, we have probably a $20 million lawsuit coming up. There's a police officer with a $14 million already in progress. There's a $1 million another lawsuit pending. You know, we need to pay attention to what we're saying here. I've listed some city ordinances, some government codes. Correct me if I'm wrong. But we need to take action. We need a decision from the city manager on possible conflict of interest of an ongoing investigation of missing arms, and it's not confidential because that individual came up here and disclosed that information, so it's no longer considered as confidential. But let's get real. Let's get down to business. The council can decide. They can take a vote. I know some of these items should be on an agenda in order for the council to take a deal. So any two of you councilmen can get together and put this on the agenda. I cannot do that. Thank you so much, and I hope that is the direction that the city council takes. Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Mr. Javier Gonzalez.
Honorable Mayor, council, members of the public, I'm here to congratulate the city, and I have good news and bad news. Good news is a lot of work has been done in the last 2-3 weeks. I know we've been very critical in the last 5-6 years, but it was very deserving. Today, in a few weeks, some work that we've been waiting for years got done. And not only in our neighborhood, where we give food for the homeless, out of the 10 lights, only one worked, and it was 10 years. They fixed him like that. I want to thank the city manager and his staff. And also, the city manager has been very well working with us for the upcoming health and safety fair. One of the things I noticed, I sat down with him and I told him about our neighborhood watch. We've been here in 19 years. We've been stabbed, we've been beaten, but we're going to have to close it down. I'm requesting the city council to take down the signs. City manager, try to look for funding. Every city, when they graduate, the city pays for the signs. It's been 3 times we paid for them. Now they're all white. We're closing the program down. I don't know how this is going to affect the community, but I can't put my neighbors at risk. They're tan viejitos and they go out and fight. But we're not going to go look for more money for signs. I mean, we've done our part. We're going to close it down. Mr. Manager was glad to donate $200. Assemblymember Garcia also wanted to donate. They said, you know what, we can't continue like that. We need a commitment from the council, something, so we're going to close it down. Thank you.
Mr. David Romero.
Good evening, mayors, council members, and public. My name is David Romero, Gonzalez Court. I'm just here to, actually, I was able to, this morning, to go to the re-inauguration of Food for Less here in Calexico. I don't know if many of you knew, but it was actually a really amazing time. It was earlier this morning. I was really impressed and amazed how many public officials, locally and county, were actually there to witness it. And what Food for Less has done, and Goya too, Calexico Food for Less presented donations to Calexico Rockwood Elementary School, the Imperial Valley Food Bank, and Feeding San Diego at the grand reopening today. I'm just here to let you know a little bit of heads up of what's going on with that, which I was amazed. I didn't know about this. They improved, we've improved our Calexico Food for Less supermarket to make shopping easier, and we've enhanced key areas to give shoppers even more reasons to think of Food for Less. This came from Brian Kaltenbach, which is the president of Food for Less, who was actually present there. We have been serving the residents of Calexico since 2003, and this renovation is one of the many ways we are thanking our customers for shopping with us. So keep in mind, a big national chain, actually took into consideration our small little town here, our small little border town, and was able to do everything for us. Now with that, customers visiting the remodeled Calexico Food for Less will enjoy a variety of new and unique enhancements, including an increased variety of Hispanic foods throughout the store, an enhanced produce department featuring our large selection of fresh and organic fruits and vegetables locally grown in the Imperial Valley. So, that was great. That was amazing. The fact that they were actually able to, Food for Less was able to donate $1,000 to Rockwood Elementary School was just great. I know our school needs it, and that was just great that they were able to do that. And on top of that, Food for Less actually teamed up with Goya Foods, which is the largest Hispanic food company in the nation, and they were able to donate 36,000 pounds of food to the Imperial Valley Food Bank and Feeding San Diego. We were actually, they actually had the truck out there, so yeah, I mean, big round of applause for them. They had the food truck out there. It was just awesome. It was a great experience, and the fact that I got the opportunity to talk to the president of the Imperial Valley Food Bank, and we asked her, somebody commented, what can we do at Calexico to help out in Imperial Valley Food Bank more? And she asked that the citizens be a little more involved with whatever you can help with. She mentioned that, Calexico is the city that requests more donations from Imperial Valley Food Bank than any other city. Yet, as a community, we are the ones that least donate to them, whether it be food, money, or time. So I asked the citizens of Calexico to get a little more active in regards to donating and helping our community. Obviously they do their job and they help us out. They help out the community a lot, and I think we can definitely do that in return. So with that in mind, I want to thank Goya and Food for Less, and they're doing an amazing job, guys. So that's it. Thank you.
Mr. John King. Mr. Kim.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have another day. I was seeing the autism, for the case of the autism. I have oil can give the sample to try out. My customer is using my oil for aromatherapies. Their kid every hour and a half to waking up at the nighttime, they no more the whole night they sleep very well. So it's the all aromatherapy itself to make the calm down to the people. So I'd like to donate the sample. If the autism person is here representing, to contact me, please. And the other one is, I believe the March 31st, a single audit has been supposedly presented to the state that causing our ability to request our grant to the state. And I don't see it. I expect to see this meeting, but I didn't see that yet. So we don't have money. We have a lot of revenues going down, and especially in this coming year is going to be worse. Lots of revenues going to be cutting down, and we failed. City of Calexico failed to get more expanded our revenue resource. We failed it, and then we keep in doing this one. Our revenue shrinking. Our expenditures almost stay same or increasing. And one of the reasons I tried to do with when I was in the council, I was trying to annexation to the east, so we can have a more property revenue. It's been blocked out to the southern community member, including the what's called the county supervisor. And then we don't have any resource to expanding our revenue. Our expenditures is growing, and our revenues is shrinking. So you have a hard decision to make in the coming up years, and you guys not doing job to save our cities a lot of services. And I showed the last time, and in our council only focusing on the cutting our safety officers. It's not the answer. Our safety is, we have to be first priority for all. Safety officers. Again, safety officers, that's your job. Then you can ask on other services. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gloria Guzman.
We have a few more? Yep. A few more after that.
Okay. Hi, good evening, members of the city. My name is Gloria Guzman, and I am a Calexico resident. And I came here today to express myself about my thoughts and my current experience with our animal control facility, its protocol, and the lack of knowledge for best practice methods when it comes to dealing with stray cats and community, also known as community cat. So, yeah, despite the fact that I am a cat lover, a cat advocate, animal welfare, supporter, I do see the great need in the city when it comes to controlling the population of cats. I want to share my current knowledge and experience practicing TNR, which stands for Trap, Neuter, Return. And the possible solution to this would be limiting and holding a trap, the trappings of the cats, sending them to the animal control facility. But not only that, also the use of euthanasia, as it is not the best solution for these cats. From what I've heard or from what I've known, the reason why they get euthanized is because they are not adoptable. And of course, these cats are not adoptable because, well, they belong in the community. Other animal shelters elsewhere outside of the county, the state, and the country actually practice TNR, of which a cat is fixed in the humane way. It is fixed by a local vet, and then it's released back to the community. So you're probably all wondering why. Why are we going to take back the cat to the community if that's the reason why we're getting these complaint calls, etc. So actually, if you return the cat back to the community, the cat will control the current population where it's at, and you won't have to be, whenever you take out the cats, let's say that you're there's a trapping of 5 cats within a certain neighborhood, and within the next 2 to 3 months, you'll have again another complaint call for 5 cats, maybe 10, maybe 20 or more, plus kittens. So implementing this program will not only help out the community, but also the cats, because these cats do belong in the community. Now, I'm not trying to make you adopt or love a cat. It's just respecting, because they also, you know, they have a soul and they have life. Also, promoting the low-cost spay and neuter clinics is crucial to the public, as it is financially feasible for them. So, for example, I am a member, a volunteer of SANS, and I don't know if you guys have heard of this. SANS stands for Spay and Neuter of the Desert Society, and it's a 501c3 nonprofit org that facilitates the cost of fixing animals, not only for pet owners, but also for neighborhood cats. And SANS was actually, it's currently supporting 2nd Street and Heber Avenue, and there was a total of 27 cats, and so far we have fixed 17 cats. So, you know, the residents are happy currently, and we do have, you know, a couple of neighbors that are not necessarily completely content, although once you start educating, they are up for the program. And I'm just, you know, here hoping that you guys take this into consideration in implementing such program, as, again, it is not just done in Hopeville, Brawley, it's everywhere, elsewhere.
Appreciate it.
So,
you are. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Vivian Rodriguez.
Hi, good evening. My name is Vivian Rodriguez, and I came here today to support the lives of the animals that are being trapped by animal control, who are unable to be transferred and are ultimately on a path to being euthanized. And you know, I think sometimes we really don't understand the actual depth of the word euthanize. It kind of makes it seem nice, but euthanize, I mean, we need to realize that it's a safe word for kill. And honestly, the best tool we have against this is education. Through education, we can involve every member of our community, our friends, our family, our students, our teachers, our staff, even everyone in this room. And we need to educate on TNR. I was one of the people who was rescuing kittens by my house, and I have fed multiple generations of kittens. I would see them grow, I would see them be captured, I would see them get run over, and honestly, it wasn't until I really learned about TNR that I realized we could have prevented all these generations by doing the humane thing and doing TNR. I'm currently working on my master's degree with Gloria, but I have seen that even at my level of education, there are many people who don't understand the benefits of TNR. Even people who have higher degrees, even people who know more, don't understand the impact that it can have in our communities. I understand that there are many who don't want to support the expenses behind TNR, but I have to disagree. I mean, trapping with the possibility of euthanizing is more of a temporary solution. You're kind of just putting like a lid on it, because these kittens will eventually grow, they'll multiply. That's like the big thing. You want to prevent them from multiplying. So by doing TNR, you're using the humane, stable solution, not just putting a lid on it. So I continue to feed 2 female cats. They haven't had kittens because they've gone through TNR. They're outside my house. I mean, the kitten population has gone down, and I support TNR, and I honestly believe that Calexico should too. So thank you guys for your time.
Giselle Nunez.
Hello, good evening. My name is Giselle. I'm also here to support TNR. I'm here to represent the community. It's our community, and this is a big issue that we need to be taking care of. I have gone with Gloria, the first speaker here that presented TNR. She feeds cats. I have gone with her to feed cats. These areas where the cats are tend to be impoverished areas or areas where there are senior citizens or apartment complexes where are full of cats, and a lot of people are not educated, as in that just feeding the cat is not fixing the solution. Where I happen to live, or most of us live, seems to be like a cleaner area where we have nice lawns, a nice backyard, but animals are still on the loose and they're still multiplying, and the problem is not being fixed, the underlying problem, which they're not being spayed and neutered. So basically at night, that's just where the cats come out, and we usually don't get to see them. In my neighborhood, animal control truck, I see it like once or twice a week. Some people complain and others don't. Some people just rather look the other way and just not make it an issue, but at the end of the day, cats are the ones that are suffering. I used to never do things since they were not my pets, but not doing anything will not solve the problem, like I said before. The important thing is learning and practicing and educating others that they need to be spayed and neutered. I have taken the time to learn more about the benefits of trap and neuter return. I think the possibility of providing workshops, not just to help the public, but the staff also might help diffuse confrontations by learning more of the animal's behavior prior to being fixed and explaining such circumstances and solutions to the people that complain. I have taken time in doing so far with 3 neighborhoods and have been understanding, but at times it takes a village to make a change. So we need to be united as a community, because at the end of the day, it's our community, and our community is suffering from this, and it's not only going to help the community as in like helping a cat, but it's also going to help us in the expenses wise too. So please, if you guys can listen to, because we're more women are going to be speaking about this, so please listen to them. It's important that we do. Thank you.
Lisa Garrett?
I'm getting a divorce. Hi, I'm Lisa Garrett, and I am the president of Too Cute Kitten Rescue in Imperial Valley. I'm here to support TNR because I pulled 3 moms and babies from the Calexico shelter, and when I got them, they were not in good condition. 3 of the kittens passed within a few hours of me getting them, and I'm hoping to make sure the kittens don't get into your guys' shelter because they're dying. The shelters are just not good for baby kittens because they're unweaned and very young, and they need very special care, 24-hour care sometimes, feeding every 2 hours with bottles and milk. And really the only way to prevent the baby kittens from being born is TNR. So I'm here to support that and the rest of Imperial Valley with kittens. Thank you.
Kathleen Perez?
Hi, everybody. My name is Kathleen Perez. I'm a resident of the city, Calexico. I'm here to support the TNR program as well. Many people don't know that many cats and kittens, especially the community cats that are unweaned and that are taken to shelters, they think people take them there because they think they're going to get adopted. They don't. They get killed. Okay, research reveals that 7 out of 10 cats who enter the shelters are being killed. The easiest way to control the population in our community is to TNR, not to kill. All over the United States, communities are coming together to implement this program. Why? Because it's the humane thing to do for an innocent animal. I understand that you guys get phone calls of upset residents in the neighborhood, but at the same time, these community cats are there because a giving heart is feeding them. If we work together as a community, within a year, we can have the population under control and continue to control the population. For the biggest example I can give you, I've been a member of the Women's Club, my mother, for over 10 years since I've been in this town. Behind there Gloria recently TNR'd 17? How many total we have there? 20? 27 have been fixed. Now, before I met Gloria, which has only been in the last month, because I have a feral cat in my neighborhood, nice neighborhood, I have 3. So anyway, we've had, Rosalind can confirm this, we have called the animal control, and I can't tell you in the 10 years, maybe 3 times to pick up the stray cats. Now they've been back. We call this the vacuum effect. You take the cats away, you move them, you get them killed, other feral cats still come again. They just keep coming and coming. So we have fixed them. We now have the population there under control. We have 3 little kittens to catch. We go. Don Jose, who's the manager of the apartment building there, loves these kittens, along with everybody else. This is their life. He sits outside and he feeds these cats. The same with a gentleman she met driving to my house. She pulled over, he was feeding 6 cats. None of these cats are fixed. This is our next TNR program we're gonna do, but these are his babies. He said they eat before I do. 87% of our population is senior citizens. These people, in the poor communities, this is what they do. So this is what we want them to have their kittens. If they're willing to feed them, we want to raise money to help support them being fed and raise money and help absorb the costs to getting them fixed. But the current shelter and animal control system was built on beliefs and information that is now antiquated and might be spending more money than expected. It's more money to euthanize and keep euthanizing animals and animals and animals. Well, we've fixed them, you don't have to euthanize anymore. So additionally, I've personally talked to those who have complained in the past, and they agreed that if they want the cats taken out of the area, but they also agree they don't want them killed. So with a group of Calexico residents and the support of the City Council, Animal Control, and educating the residents of Calexico, this program can work, but we do need your help. We need people to work with us. Remember that if we continue to kill these cats, we're not only will increase the population, we could be killing some innocent seniors' little babies, which may be all they have left in life to do is feed them and enjoy their company. I thank you for your time and consideration and look forward to you guys listening to Gloria's presentation and getting the animal control, the police, and everybody involved, because we're willing to go out and raise money to support this and do it. I'm out there with a trap, and I live in a nice neighborhood, and how I met her was trying to catch a female feral cat, who I've seen had 2 litters, and I finally caught her with the help of Kelly, who brought me 4 traps because the cat wouldn't go in one. In the meantime, I caught another feral cat that was in my neighborhood. I have him in my yard I'm feeding. I now have 6 cats, so I have 5 kittens now, 1 mama in my garage. I live in a nice neighborhood, but it's becoming overrun by feral cats if I don't fix them. Now why do I have to do it? We need your help.
Thank you.
Phyllis Elijah.
Good evening. I'm Phyllis Elijah, and I'm president of a 501c3 nonprofit group that does cat rescue here in Imperial Valley called Southern Counties Rescue. Most people in the valley don't know of us because we rescue here, but we do all of our adoptions up in Orange County at a Petco in San Juan Capistrano. And the reason I decided to come tonight is because over the years that I've been here active, I've taken a number of cats out of Calexico, working with the people that are trying to trap, take the kittens, get the mamas fixed. And if we had a more coordinated effort here that we could work closely with the shelter, then it just works so much better. I started doing rescue up in Los Angeles, and when I first started up there, they had a kill rate in the shelters of 95% of every animal that came in there got killed, especially cats. Today, their kill rate for cats is in the 20s. And we're talking about a situation where they get over 100 cats an hour into their shelters. But what they've done is a tremendous amount of TNR. They've focused on low-income neighborhoods. They have situations where they go in and offer free spay-neuter. And if they don't do that free spay-neuter and the TNR, the population they just keep coming back for the very reasons we've already heard this evening. I was talking to one woman in a shelter, and she said her neighbor didn't like the cats, so they got rid of the cats, and now she's got rats running across her yard. And she said she'd rather have a feral fixed cat any day to a bunch of rats running around. So it's just one of those things that, for whatever reason, is because there's a food source. The cats don't come unless someone's feeding. You can't, no matter how much you tell you, people are kind-hearted. You're not going to get a senior citizen or anyone who loves animals to stop putting that bowl of food out. So if you gather all those cats up and move them away, 2 months later, you'll have the same number of cats back because they're there. Now, if you fix them, I've seen this on college campuses up in Los Angeles. The ferals keep the other ferals away. They have their territory, they get their food source, or they're killing rats or mice or whatever, and the population just gradually goes down in that managed colony. But if you just wipe out the colony, you'll have, within 6 months, you'll have the same number of cats right back again. So the real key to success is concentrated TNR. And a city like Calexico, you're in a better position than a city like Los Angeles because you've got a very small territory that you're dealing with, and you've got a number of people here in the community that are very anxious to help and work with animal control to get it done. So anyway, I just wanted to let you know that I've been helping Calexico, but I live in Raleigh, but I love the whole valley, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I just wanted to make a really quick comment of something I had heard. Because of our proximity to Mexico, I understand we have a lot of flow of cats coming from the south. Is that correct? Is that true? They're coming through the fence? You need to talk to Trump about our cat problem now too, huh? Mexico is sending their worst cats. Anyhow, right. Thank you so much. We will have a few comments from our city manager a little later about the issue. City clerk, you want to let me know if there's anyone else? That's it? No, not Diana. You. Come on over, Diana. You don't need a slip, young lady. You're welcome anytime.
Hi, everybody. I know you guys all know me, but there's a few who don't know me. I'm Diana Daniels. I've been coming here for 8 years. Everyone always asks me, are you the girl that does everything with the Calexico Animal Shelter? Yes, ladies, hi. We finally meet face to face. I'm Diana Daniels. I'm the one that has created the Calexico Border Paws. I've created the whole animal shelter, the whole volunteer program. It's my baby, it's my passion, it's what I've done. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming. I can get emotional right now, but I'm going to try not to get emotional. Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it. It's amazing. Thank you so much. It's amazing. But I want to thank City Manager David Dale. Thank you so much. He's the only guy in 8 years who has ever even called me and said, hey, listen, I want to get together with you. I said, let's go. So we got together, and he listened to me. He listened to me. Everything I said, he listened to me. And the next day, he went to the animal shelter himself. He went to the animal shelter himself on Friday, and he looked at everything that I said to him, and he called me, and we set up a meeting again. He said, Diana, you were right. He's the only guy in 8 years who has come out there for me and made it happen. So thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Honestly, you have no idea, the faith that I have in you right now. Thank you so much for everything you've done. Furthermore, this guy said to me, come sit down and we'll make a decision, make a plan. He got a contract signed between the Calexico Border Paws and also Humane Society. He got a contract signed. It's something that I've been waiting for years. For years. This guy did it in one meeting. One. I mean, it just blows my mind. You know, I've asked him if he can set up an account for me. Done. One day, he's got an account for me set up so that people can go ahead, you know, and make a donation. I've asked the city council, the city, for 8 years, I need an account. This guy did it in one day. I mean, I'm so happy that you're here. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I mean, like, you're saving us more than you can think. So thank you so much for doing that. I mean, it means everything to me. It really does. So I just hope that we just continue growing. Thank you a million times. I can never thank you enough for this. I hope that we keep growing. Hope that we make this. Ladies, you're amazing. Oh my God, I'm gonna write about you guys today. So thank you, and I just hope that we just keep doing good things in Calexico, because I'm not going anywhere. I mean, you guys are seeing me here all the time, right? I'm not going anywhere. So again, thank you so much. Thank you.
You were gonna skip the best one?
Oh. Did you get a slip? If you wanted to speak, you can come and speak. Okay, you need to come up here, please, to the city clerk, and you have 3 minutes.
But
Go
it's
ahead.
for item 14 and 15. 14 and 15.
Did you want it in general comments, or did you want to wait until the item comes up?
Okay.
Okay, go ahead. 3 minutes.
Just the comments. I am against the cat basement, which is the pet shelter, because it's next to the watershed, the Watergate scandal, if we remember our history. Because the way it makes the cats pregnant, it makes them pregnant out of a dead cat, gets the kittens out of a dead cat, puts them inside of another cat via civils, some other types of tubes, and then puts air inside of them. And because probation took my period away, every 10 years they take my period. I mean, when I had it, they took my period for 16 months. I'm afraid that these guys, you know, the real definition of cancer is putting an animal inside of a human. And that would be really gross, because no period. And that type of stuff's going on right here. You know, it's really getting voodoo-ish and witchcrafty. And because I'm a woman, I wouldn't like anything else put inside. And a new business idea to keep those anxious guys busy would be, you know, we can already cancel the natural gas, because that's actually making our body look more flaccid for us, you know, not as tight as it should be for us women. The natural gas isn't good at all. It shouldn't go in our blood. And when the people on the basement move gas through the inside of us, and nobody really sees that because it's clear. Also, we can cancel gasoline, because the new types of cars are already here, and they're not by Tesla. Other cars are already made over in the Oriental Republic of China, and there's at Bloomington.com, you can get a new demo for those cars. So that's like the new cars Back to the Future again. And the cars are here, and well, I was just trying to get this in the right order with no animal pregnancies and newer cars and no old technology. I don't use a phone, internet, or the TV, and I'm up to date on what everybody's doing and the interesting stuff, not what they say on comments. That's it.
Thank you. That is it then on our public comments. We are now going to switch over to our city council comments, starting with Mr. Escobar.
2 quick comments, because it's been a long meeting thus far. Mr. Figueroa, just felicidades, señor. It was his birthday yesterday. I coincidentally found out.
Happy birthday.
No, I'm in Mexicali, so you're doing a great job. Thank you, and happy birthday. The other
Should
one
we
is,
sing? Or?
Huh?
No.
Should we sing?
No.
Mr. Bieber's gone. Anyway, a lot of people, the community doesn't know this. Less than 5 years ago, we had 280 employees at the city. Right now, we're roughly at 140, 145 plus or minus. Basically, we're doing the same amount of work, or we have the same amount of responsibilities, not as a city council. We're talking about city employees with half the workforce. So we as community leaders or as community members complain consistently about numerous things that are city services, yet these people, by and large, not everyone, because you do have a few bad apples, but by and large, bust their butt on a continual basis. They work as effectively as possible with very limited resources, and what we do, by and large, is criticize them. I understand that city services are not where they should be, and I agree with all of you because I am also a citizen of this city. But I want to give them a shout out because they do the best that they can, by and large, with the limited resources, the limited budget that the city provides them. So again, I don't think we've talked about this recently, and I just want to give them a shout out for what they do for the city on a day in and day out basis.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Escobar. Mr. Pacheco?
Just one comment, and we met with a delegation from China, I guess, and they were thinking of coming into the city and develop some properties, but there's a lot of issues, and it's a free trade zone, so we need to learn a little bit about that, and they need to come up also and identify exactly what they want to do, and maybe we can really partner with this company. But I think it was a very fast and practical meeting that was just informational, so I hope that comes to a reality. So that was one of my good meetings for last week. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Pacheco. Mr. Ren?
I have a few comments. One comment regarding our the company Reach, the ambulance, the helicopter ambulance. I just want to say that they reached out to me and wanted me to tell our council that they are having some issues with the possibility of another company coming into the valley, and so they're a little worried. They did want to let the council know that Calexico is one of the cities that has the most members, the Reach membership, and so just wanted to let you guys know that there is a possibility of them possibly having to shut down because of some stuff that's been going on, and so just to bring awareness to you guys on that. As far as this pet shelter issue, I mean, I want to thank everybody that's here. I know that this is something that I stumbled upon watching you guys that day when you guys were there trapping those cats, and I want to thank you guys for educating me because you know, that's something that I really didn't know what TNR was and exactly how cats are and you know, the feral cats and all. I that's something that I didn't know. I'm more of a dog person, but I even then, you know, cats and dogs, I mean, they're both living creatures, God's creatures, and I think it's extremely important that this be attacked by every angle. I think it's the trap, neuter, and release, but I think it's also has to do with the community members and people knowing. It's an education that needs to be done, like the same way I was educated on this, because before that, you would think you get a cat, you take it to the shelter, there goes the problem. Well, that's not the problem comes back. Sometimes even, you know, with kittens, like they say, so it's even worse. Again, just thanking everybody for being here, and I hope with our new city manager and all you guys that we come to some resolution of this. It's got to be attacked by every angle, and I'm glad that we have community members as yourselves that want to help. Again, Calexico suffers from, you know, we're running skeleton crews everywhere. And it's at this time more than ever that we need community members, community outreach to help us. That's a reality. We're a city that should have over 300 employees. We have under 150. So we're short-staffed, and I want to thank you guys again. And that's about it. Thank you.
Yeah. This last Friday, March 16th, the binational concert, and I know we have such a lot of heavy, important issues going on, but I think still this is important. The binational concert was a success. What that was there was the music on Mexicali side and then the music over here in Calexico at the border, and we were taking turns playing beautiful music. And it was an emotional experience, and it was a very unique experience. I do want to commend the leadership of Mayor Hurtado and our city staff, especially Miguel Figueroa, for a job well done. However, I do have some criticisms, but with some solutions. Number one, it would have been better to have invited all the city council members for a small reception with Mexicali's Mayor Sanchez at City Hall prior to the music's festivities. This would have made it a little more transparent and inclusive. So I'm hoping we'll go in that direction. And then number two, the event should have had full support of the council. All council members should have been present. I hope in the future that that will be the case. We need you, we really do. And then three, I mentioned with Mr. Figueroa that some chairs should have been designated for the dignitaries, and that will be corrected. But overall, it was still a wonderful, wonderful event. Now, today I attended a very well-organized grand reopening of Food for Less. I'm not going to go over everything. David did such an excellent job in explaining what it all meant. But my compliments to Mr. Ben Horton for his strategic abilities and the council members that attended. And so it was very, very good. And just like Mr. Real has said, it has been, at my age, there's always something to learn, and there's been an education on the cat situation. So I would like to team up very much, for us to team up and do something effective about this. Thank you very much, ladies.
Thank you, Mr. Hodge. Well, I'm a kitty cat lover, but I can't own a cat because my son is allergic. My son's allergic, so I can't. Anything right now. Well, you know what we did do? We brought the person that takes time and tries harder. And so, yes, I have noticed that difference as well in our leadership at this point is that will make a difference when you have leadership that tries harder. And so we're very fortunate to have that at this point. So you'll see a lot of differences in many different areas. He is also coming from the public works area of our city, so that also is very helpful, because not only is it that he's trying harder in this administration, actually the whole city right now is trying harder, is that there's a lot of in-depth and very precise knowledge and experience on how cities should be running. So very much appreciate all your comments and your cooperation, and we definitely want to respond back to. So thank you, Mr. Dale. I know you're going to make some comments right now after mine. I also want to tell everyone that we did have a very successful event. It was called Fraterno 2018, and it actually was a request from the Mexicali mayor. They're celebrating their 115th this month. And when they approached us, it was with very little time, and they basically were calling the shots and how all this was done. But it was very amazing on how truly two different countries were working together and coordinating and synchronizing what their plan was. And it was really nice because they did have a beautiful orchestra, Rio Nuevo it's called, and it comes from many different areas of Mexicali. It exists, this program exists in many areas where they take at-risk youth and teach them about orchestras and culture and stuff like that, and then they put them together for events like this. So I just want to just basically say thank you so much to all those people that helped make this happen. And of course, the blessing of our city manager who said, Maritza, anything for the community. So once we knew we had this pressure, he supported us completely. Under the circumstances that we have been, it became something that was so special, like Mr. Hodge says, is that when we do things like this between the city of Mexicali and Calexico, it means something very different and very special to us. So one thing he didn't mention is that we started out that event through a presentation of the Chinese leones, los leones chinos, the awesome presentation that they had, and they had both sides doing it at the same time. So that was out of respect to our Chinese culture here in the area as well. We had a drone up there looking at everything from upstairs and seeing everything, how it looked like, the view, and it was really amazing. It was really special. We even had a color wash of our water tank that's up there, and that looked really cool too. So it was a little windy that night, but everything worked out really well. It was a lot of really good vibes, and that's the kind of thing we need for community once in a while. Remember, we got to relax once in a while too. So I really want to appreciate and thank Mr. Miguel Figueroa, who is with the Economic Development, which is very vigorous at this time, together with Belinda Alvarado. Helping him out, Javier Moreno right here, my very special help there. Ruben Moreno out there, shout out to Ruben who helped us a lot with the sound. Extreme Sound, which was Mr. Roacho. And of course, the participation of the Calexico High School Mighty Bulldog Marching Band. They were awesome. And Jonathan Cortez, who also helped us come out and sing. On behalf of Mexicali, I'd like to obviously thank the mayor of Mexicali, Mr. Gustavo Sanchez Vasquez, and his amazing staff with the Casa de Cultura, the cultural center of Mexicali, Ms. Carmelita, Mr. Miguelito, I just know their names, Carmelita, Miguelito, and Alfredo Arenas, a very dear friend. And of course, being on the border and making these things happen, Border Patrol gets a little nervous about us getting a little too close to the fence, but we did have the 100% cooperation from Border Patrol here in the area and from CBP. So we want to thank them also because to us, a binational concert such as that was very meaningful for us in this community, that we are not divided by this fence. We are actually two countries, two cities, but it's just one community and we know that. So it was very appreciated for everybody's participation. I want to thank you, especially for the kids. The kids were really happy with what happened. So I'm going to leave it at that because it's a long night and I want you, Mr. City Manager, to let us know what's on your mind.
Well, first, if you don't mind, Mayor, I'd like to call up the birthday boy to discuss this.
If we can sing.
This staff did an amazing job because they only had less than a week to put this together and somehow put it together and made it happen. It was incredible.
I'll be brief, but when we're able to pull out things like this and make sure that we not only comply with the request, as the mayor said, from our sister city in Mexicali.
We couldn't say no.
This is nothing that can be done by one person. So I want to start off by acknowledging our police chief, Reggie Gomez. He did a fabulous job in assisting us that day. We had a number of volunteers that the mayor acknowledged. Kudos to them. But before all that, there were permits, there were things that had to get done, and there were key people here that assisted us. I want to point out Mr. Ralph Morales, our workforce development. No, I was going to say workforce development because that was my old job, but I got that wrong. You know that, John. Development Services Manager. And Ms. Lily Faromir, Public Works. They did a fabulous job as well, along with all the staff that was there and helped us out. Thank you, David, for giving us the opportunity, the freedom to carry on with this, along with the council. The comments made by Councilman Hodge are well taken, and we'll look forward to continuing to not only partner and do more of the binational work that we've been discussing at the economic development level with the city of Mexicali. Kudos also to their team over there. As the mayor said, they did a fabulous job. So thank you.
I want to try to be brief, but I got a lot to discuss. First of all, thank you for the kind comments. I do want to continue the work. It's just begun. We did sign, as was mentioned, a contract just through the end of this year. We need to work on another one for next year. That's in the works. We're going to provide a link for PayPal so that if any donations want to, and we're going to put it on our website, it's going to go directly to a fund that can only be used for animal control. And so we're setting that up currently. And as of next week, we're going to have Public Works over there and some welders working on the kennels and doing some other work around that's desperately been needed for a long time. So we're going to be doing that. I also hear your words on the TNR, and I also do support that. For the obvious reasons that you stated with the territorial cats, you remove one cat and another cat comes in, and we have a porous border when it comes to cats, illegal alien cats coming in. So yes, we do want to work towards that, and we look forward to looking at that. I want to, on another subject, I do want to address this memo that we sent out. It was very clear that this memo that anyone in the public at any time can speak to the media, but what needs to be clear is that it cannot be as a city official, because we had misinformation going out to the media last weeks that were here in last 2 weeks. And so we need to bring all media attention into one source, and it needs to come from one source. So anyone at any time, Constitution can speak to the media as a private citizen. But commissioners, you have to remember that you're an advisory role to the council, and that you need a majority to make that, and then you advise the council. So making comments as a commissioner to the media is inappropriate, I believe. So that is what the memorandum states. You can clearly speak to the media as a citizen. So I hope that's clear. Anyways, moving on, I want to say just a few things that are going on right now. We have a water pipeline project that started on on Grant Street. That's going to be a major thoroughfare when the port of entry opens up, and so that's part of a project that we're going to also institute that's starting next month, another overlay project that you saw the last one. We're starting another one this month coming up.
West side?
Well, I showed the map last time. It's interspersed throughout the whole city. A bit of good, to me, it's great news, is that today the CTC approved $4.5 million for the Cesar Chavez project. We've been working for like 5 months to do that. So, Miss Liliana Falomir was instrumental in getting that done. So I want to admire that. So thank you very much on that work. That was very important. If that, just to tell you, if that didn't happen, it would have been delayed another 2 months, which means that Cesar Chavez, the work is going to be happening on Cesar Chavez and the port will be open. So it's a huge thing. So it was a very good thing that happened today. So I wanted to let you know that. Also, the GSA, as a part of their port work, is doing a sewer pump station, and that work is ongoing. It's over there by the California Market. That's happening. We are continuing with the design of Cordova Park, 3 baseball fields. And that's happening right now. We're almost to the completion point of that, and so we look like that something's going to happen in that park this year. We started a valve exercise program that's on Public Works side. The generator project on the water treatment plant is almost or is complete, and also the emergency VFD that's been on our agenda for, I don't know, 6 meetings is now finally going to be complete soon. So that should be off our agenda. It was an emergency because we have one distribution pump that's completely out without that VFD, and if we go into summertime without it, it would have been a big deal. So that is going to be complete. The rate study is almost complete. We're probably going to be looking at a town hall meeting within the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and to discuss the new proposed rate structure. And so that's happening on the water and sewer side. And this is on Mr. Figueroa's side, but the New River undergrounding and pump back station, the design has begun on that. $1.4 million project that's out of our control. The Regional Water Quality Control Board is doing that, but that is ongoing, and it was a firm is starting work on that. So got to do all that stuff, and we'll move on with the meeting. So thank you.
Good job.
That wasn't so bad. Sure.
You said the rate study will be completed very soon?
We have the rates, the rate structure, the proposed rate structure next week will be done, and then we'll set up town hall meetings to discuss the rate structure.
Am I correct in assuming that we also included the ambulance study in that study as well?
That's a separate study. It's ongoing as well, but it's separate, yes.
Okay, when is that? When can we expect that?
The fire chief is in charge of that one, so I don't have the answer to that. Yeah.
Thank you. All right, moving on. I need a motion to approve consent agenda, please.
Madam Mayor, I'll make the motion.
Or anybody like to pull any items
I want to
first?
pull item 8 and 4.
Okay,
8 and
we're gonna-
4?
You want to make a motion?
Yes.
Mr. Real, or and yours?
Yeah, I'll amend my motion, and I will make a motion to approve number 5, number 6, number 7, number 9, and number 10 under consent agenda.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Hodge. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Pacheco. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Mr. Real, item number 4. Did you just want to separate it so we can have a separate vote? Or did you want to make a comment?
Yes, just to vote on it.
Okay, all in favor of item number 4, please say aye.
Aye.
No.
Thank you.
And item 8, I wanted to bring to the council because I know we voted on this. This is the second reading, but these this last week, I received 3 calls from different developers and different people that wanted us to really take a look at this ordinance again and adopt it the similar way to all cities in the county that have adopted it, which is the ordinance the way it reads from the state. Pardon me. There was a lot of the state. Ideally, I guess a state brought this accessory dwelling unit thing because to the floor, because there's a need for more housing. Unfortunately, the city of Calexico has taken that ADU ordinance and really restricted it with things on there that really don't belong there the way the state actually approved it. One of them being, people started asking me, why is Calexico saying that people need to live in that household to actually be able to build an ADU? That's one of them. Another was, I believe there was something, the city was putting some extra as far as parking requirements and a lot of things that.
If I may interject, this item has to do with the rezoning of certain areas from a R1 to a RA. The item that you're talking about will be coming out, I think that's item number 11?
16.
16.
Okay, so it's not item 8. Okay, all right. My bad. I thought it was on consent for second reading. So we haven't passed it yet then.
Number 16 is going in for the second reading as well.
Okay.
But that's
It's not
a
on
public
consent.
hearing.
Okay. All right, I'll make a motion to approve item 8 then.
I'll second.
All those in favor, so
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. He's taking a little break, so we'll continue unless everybody wants to take a break.
No.
No.
Let's move on.
We'll move on.
Yeah.
Take a break.
I missed my son's baseball game already.
Potential items, adoption of nepotism and fraternization policy, number 11. Presentation on that one?
Human resources coming.
Cuando quiera.
I'll make a motion.
Good evening. The Human Resources Risk Management Office develops policies that will assist the city in managing our risk. And one of the things that came up during meetings with several associations was that they were suggesting that we adopt a policy that would address nepotism and fraternization. And one of the things that it also does is that it will decrease the likelihood of a sexual harassment or a gender discrimination in the workplace, which is something that we have always worked with. And so one of the things that we did then was we did our research. We developed this draft policy. We provided it to the departments as well as associations for their comments. And the few comments that we did receive, we were able to go ahead and incorporate them. And what this does is actually give us a guide so that if we have two relatives working in the same department, one of the main things is that they not be reporting to each other, that one not be the supervisor while the other one is reporting to the supervisor. We also have situations where we may have a married couple working for the city. The good thing about it right now is that our married couples work in different departments, and so that is not a problem. But this really addresses any future problems that might come up, so that way we have a guide to follow. And this is really what it is, the policy is a guide that will give all the departments something that they can review.
Now, if it comes up that somebody sees somebody in the department and they start going out and bingo, they're going to be going
Could you
out
elaborate
now.
on bingo?
So, so I see that the city retains the right to move them still.
Yes, because we really cannot control what anyone does after hours. However, if it's going to affect their working relationship, then at that time, yes, we would have to look at the situation and make a determination. If we need to transfer an employee, then of course we would look at the possibility of transferring the employee.
Working in the same department, I think.
Yes,
That's what,
exactly.
that's the key.
Exactly.
Well, I just wanted to bring up, this is Calexico, and I think everybody's related to everybody somehow, one way, shape, or form, and so that's kind of, it doesn't include hiring then. It's just within the city now, or does it include? I guess what I'm trying to say is, if somebody works there and the husband wants to apply, then he can't apply because of the nepotism.
Again, it's a situation on a case-by-case basis.
That's the problem. It needs to be black and white so that that there's not selective enforcement on. I mean, I know right now a lot of family members work in Calexico. I mean, I think everybody kind of either got a job here because someone they know or friendships or whatever. But what I'm trying to say is, how do you? It needs to be black and white. I think it's kind of grayish the way it's worded right now. How do we make it more stringent? I guess we either completely say we're not going to hire anybody that's related to anybody, cousins. I mean, there's all kinds of relations.
Well,
right?
that would be an impossibility because you're right. Small communities like ours, we do have people who are related by blood or marriage. However, again, on a case-by-case basis, I think our main point here is that if you have a supervisor who's going to hire someone in their department, that is a husband, a sister, a brother, a cousin, then, and that person is reporting directly to them, yes, it would create a problem. But if that person, let's say that the relative is being hired, is reporting to another person in that same department that is their supervisor, then you've actually removed them from that supervision.
One of the problems is that, as you know, your unions have bumping rights and all kinds of stuff like that. So, that's the thing. How are you going to? When you say case-to-case basis, it complicates everything, because if someone has bumping rights and you can't let me go, you got to take me to this department, and not just that, but a well-run city needs to have people that are trained in different areas of the city. So if you have nepotism, you're not going to be able to send someone to finance that could be also somebody that can help you in housing, or you know what I mean. I'm just thinking that it needs to be clearer, correct? That's only my opinion.
Thank you, Roz.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, any more comments? Or would you like to make a motion for it to approve?
I'm not ready to approve it until we have something more concrete. That's just me.
I just guess we could make a comment to what you're saying is it is a policy. And I believe that when staff is indicating that it is a case-by-case basis, is that HR, human resources, and employment issues are so vast, and just obviously anything could happen. So that's why I believe she's responding that way, that it's case-by-case basis. But a policy is a policy. It will be effective, and it will apply citywide. Is that correct?
Case-by-case basis, it's kind of, it leaves interpretation to bias.
I don't believe that the policy itself mentions the words case-by-case basis, I believe.
Exactly.
It's only her comment, so I don't think we should read so much into that.
It provides it provides a process to, you have that issue, to how to first address it, obviously. It provides a mechanism to do so. Right. And it's not like black and white.
It's not going to solve every problem.
And I understand your comment in terms of, it's not black and white in saying these people can and can't. I mean, it is not that sense. It provides a mechanism to look at the issue and see if we can address it.
But we currently have no policy. We're introducing this for policy.
We're starting with one.
Yes. We don't have an ordinance, we don't have a policy.
No, right now, though, you would probably suspect any employment, you would ensure that you don't have a supervisor supervising somebody within a husband or a wife. I mean, that's probably done right now.
So this is only for supervisors?
No, that's the initial issue is when you have supervising somebody within, say, but then there's other ways, but that's kind of the main sort of crux of the nepotism policy. And then trying to address that issue first, obviously, that's like, and then, and there'll be different circumstances that would come into play that you maybe have to look at.
That's the problem. The interpretation is left to who? It needs to be a black and white, yes you can, no you can't.
Interpretation is left to the city manager and says it multiple times. And I understand where you're coming from as far as it leaving a gap. And if it's okay with all of you, I'll just read a couple of sentences. In lieu of a transfer from one department to another, or in a situation where no similar counterpart classification exists, to which a spouse or other relative can be transferred, the city may request the voluntary resignation of one of the employees, and it may request the voluntary resignation of one of the employees, and if one of the employees does not voluntarily resign, the employee with the least employment experience serves with the city in the city of Calexico may be discharged by the city manager. Again, I understand where you're coming from as far as wiggle room. At the same time, it really is the department manager and ultimately the city manager who will need to make that call.
Ms. Guerrero, has the city staff at any time that you've ever been aware of have had employee handbooks with these types of policies in them?
We have the personnel rules and regulations that were written in 1994 and have not been updated.
Okay.
And so it does refer to nepotism, but it's a one paragraph.
Okay, so at this point, there is no active employee handbook that maintains these policies in it? Because I would assume that if one day we can have that, that staff also will sign and recognize those and go through that part of that process as well?
And you did say that your unions and staff approved of this policy.
Yes, it was shared with them, and it was reviewed. We received a few comments. We incorporated the comments into the policy.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I practically read the whole thing, and there were areas that were stringent enough and coherent and clarified. So I understand Mandy's point, but at this point in time, what Councilman Pacheco is implicating that this is a first standard or a first policy, and I think we should start with it. So I would like to make the motion.
Thank you.
To
Approval?
approve this item.
Do I have a second?
Bless you.
First by Mr.
Second.
Hodge, second by Mr. Pacheco. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Thank you very much.
I just want to, for the record, my no is not because of the ordinance, it's because of the way it's written, I guess. Yeah, the interpretation part of it.
If you'd like to address those concerns. Alrighty, number 12. Authorize city manager to sign an agreement for professional services between the City of Calexico and the Holt Group for the preparation of the 2018 Service Area Municipal Service Plan. Very long awaited.
Yes, I want to introduce the item, and I know our city manager is going to shed some more information on the decision. But I do want to point out something. One of the things that we had been talking about is making sure that we're congruent and that we see continuity with the matters that this council enacts on and recommends staff to put in practice. One of the things that we discussed 3 meetings ago was the importance of this specific item in moving forward with a number of things that have to do with economic development projects, but most importantly, making sure that we are up to date with what this city, in terms of services, has to offer to its community. So having said that, we went through an open process. We received 2 proposals. They were weighed upon. One of the things that I do want to point out is that LAFCO is obviously wanting to make sure that we follow this process accordingly, because this is a very important piece of document that we need for the coming years. As we know, 2006 was the last time a plan of this nature was put together. There was an amendment in 2008, but that's why it's critical right now that it's been a decade since we last touched on this item. So we would really appreciate your consideration in approving this request. Mr. City Manager.
How long are we going to have to wait for the report? How long does it usually take?
We'll get a draft in 4 months, and I think that the entire, what, did you want to speak to? She's been waiting patiently.
Justina Gamboa Arce, from the Hope.
Been very patient waiting until this point.
She likes coming to Calexico, huh, Justina?
Yeah, love it. Thank you. My name is Justina Arce. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a senior planner with the Hope Group. I've been providing planning services in the Imperial County for over 20 years. We're really grateful that you're considering our firm. It's really exciting to be able to work with such a dynamic community. For certainly, the service area plan is indeed extremely important for such a fast-growing community, and to be able to keep up with the service demand, most importantly. And I think more than anything, what I just want to share is that we hope that the service area plan, whoever you choose to prepare it, it's not just a compliance document for the city to be able to present for LAFCO, but it's actually something that's very useful. And one of the areas that our firm really likes to focus on is the identification of real financial resources for all of the challenges, capital and service related, that are associated with each of the services. So those are my 2 cents worth. And if I know David Dale mentioned the timing. This is a very comprehensive document that hasn't been updated in 10 years. So 4 months is an incredibly short amount of time to be able to do the updates. But what I did mention to David is that we can. Pressure. No pressure. No. In 4 months, we can certainly provide something that's the bare minimum for compliance. But I think that the actual an interim draft that can be interimly adopted and adopted by LAFCO that will meet their minimum requirements, and then continue to work on it with all the essential components that can really be implemented by the community, the quality information that can be used by each department.
Awesome.
I think the 4-month turnaround was just specifically for LAFCO, but it's going to take a little longer to get the general plan.
Correct. For example, LAFCO's not so much concerned about, what are your financing resources for each of your capital needs. And our firm has been extremely involved with a number of state, federal agencies for financing some of your most expensive capital, which is water, sewer, transportation, as well as other community facilities. So there's a number of resources out there that a lot of the communities are not aware of, like the simplified factor or the limits on cap of those capital improvements. So I think it's really essential to bring that in and make communities aware, because you can actually implement. It's not just we have a high service demand and a higher service need, but this is a route that we can take to get there.
Any other questions? Gentlemen? No? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It was really nice seeing you.
Motion to approve?
Yes, do I have any motions for its approval?
Item 13.
Mr. Hodge first, Mr. Pacheco second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Or I'm sorry, it was
Thank you very much.
12.
Alrighty. Next item is item number 13. Authorize interim city manager to sign change order number 3 with Control Systems and Engineering, Inc. in the amount of $4,985.50 for the water treatment plant emergency generator project number 2017-100. City manager?
Do we have an interim city manager? Just kidding.
I do make a correction to item number 13, and it is not interim because this says interim. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
He is permanent. Clarification
He
done.
is permitted.
Are there any questions? This was a tying, okay, we don't want to waste time. Go ahead.
But this is still under the budget.
It's well within the allotted budget for the project.
I just want to make a comment. I personally am not, I don't like to approve change orders. I just, that's just not.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Historically.
They happen sometimes, though.
Remember, this is a $1.2 million job, so 5,000, in retrospect, it's really.
How much is the job amount?
1.2 million.
Okay, so $4,000.
Drop in the bucket.
Yeah.
Alrighty,
So-
we got
That's
the.
what I'm saying, the
we got
company
vote.
could have probably eaten that.
I don't remember.
You can't ask a company to
I'm
eat.
sure the profit is more than that margin.
You have to
Alrighty.
pay people for their
Gotta be hard
work.
negotiating, man. You guys gotta
Yeah.
negotiate harder.
Okay.
Item number 14, presentation and approval
Did-
of
did
final
we-
report.
I didn't hear a
That's
motion.
what I'm asking you guys.
Motion to approve.
Interrupted, and then I kept-
Second.
I'm tired, you guys. Come on.
Second.
Okay, well, how did it go? First, Mr. Pacheco, second, Mr. Hodge, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 14, presentation and approval of the final report for Calexico Bicycle Plan update.
Another one that's been very patient here, waiting all meeting. Come on up.
Now he's going to want to come back for shopping with, come on.
Yeah.
The one that you just saw right now.
So we have a presentation here that Lily will put the screen down, get that ready for you.
Bicycle plan. Master.
After 9, we have to make a motion to Gabby.
All right, thank you. So Lily, I'll just tell you when to advance slides. Things like that. Okay, so thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. Just wanted to give a brief overview of a project that's recently wrapped up with Lily and the folks in Public Works, and that's the Calexico Bicycle Master Plan update. My name is Brian Gaze. I'm the project manager with Chen Ryan Associates. We're a transportation planning and engineering firm in San Diego County. I lead our active transportation planning group, which really looks at bicycle, pedestrian planning, safe routes to school, and really helping a city identify which routes would be good candidates for eventual implementation of bicycle and pedestrian improvements. And so I'd like to basically summarize the work that was done over the course of the last 11 months. Next slide, please. So a little bit about what a bicycle master plan is and what this project looked at. Really the reason that this is so important in this day and age is that in 2008, I believe, the state mandated that cities must look at more than simply designing for people in vehicles. The idea was to look at what ways the city can make it easier for folks on foot and on bike to get around, and that was sort of the Complete Streets Act of 2008, and there have been some other state laws since then to require this document to be on file with the city just as a circulation element would as part of the general plan. So this is sort of a sub-document to the city's circulation element. Interestingly enough, Calexico was one of the first cities in Imperial County to have a bicycle master plan. So a lot of what we did is we looked at the 2003 bicycle master plan, which was before it was required. So Calexico has been thinking about this for the past 15 years, and it gave us a good starting point. A lot of other things that I'll talk about briefly are some other ideas that have come up throughout other regional planning efforts. So what we did is we're looking at the adopted bicycle master plan from 2003 and applying new design guidance. There's been some new thoughts from Caltrans and some new sort of tools in the engineer's toolbox on how to make it easier to get around on foot and on bike. And lastly, I think this is very important. In May, the state of California will be issuing a sort of an unprecedented call for projects. Those of you that drive are probably familiar that the price of gas went up recently, and that was a state law called SB1. And so SB1 basically is using that new gas tax money for any number of roadway improvements. So that can be resurfacing, that can be widening, that can be new signals, that sort of thing, a whole host of opportunities there for all sorts of transportation, and there's close to $100 million in this next round statewide for active transportation planning. So for a city that has a relatively limited number of bicycle and pedestrian facilities, there's a lot of opportunities that will be open in May. And so adopting this plan sort of gives you almost like a ticket to the dance in a sense. By having an adopted plan, you can check that box in the application, and I'll go through some of the ideas that we have for funding and really why I think the City of Calexico will be very competitive for state funding and why it's really important, I think, to take advantage of this cycle because of the political realities of this, this law and some other details that I'll get into momentarily. Next slide, please. So what goes into a bicycle master plan or a bicycle master plan update? The first thing we do is we look at existing conditions. So I'll walk through some of the things that we examined in terms of where folks are riding, where folks are getting into collisions. I think that's one of the things that we look at first and foremost when we do these plans. We don't want these to just be documents. We really want them to really work at getting folks out onto bikes, and those that are riding, we want to make sure that they're safe, and we really want to look at areas that have been sites of collisions and look to improve those locations. The other thing, at the end of the day, we do come up with a list of recommended projects, and those are things like just engineering projects, basically, new bicycle lanes, bicycle paths. There's some other things that we can do that I'll talk about. And then also programs. I think one of the important things is we work often with law enforcement, with school districts, with public health agencies to supplement the engineering recommendations with things like helmet giveaways and bike to school days. And we do a lot of work with law enforcement. I know law enforcement in the Imperial County does a lot of work on what are called bicycle rodeos, where you get kids and you teach them how to ride bikes safer, how to fasten their helmet. And so there's a lot that goes into planning for safe kids on bikes beyond simply putting down a bike lane or something like that. So we have some recommendations, and I'll talk briefly about that. And then really the bicycle master plan is another way to measure the impact of improvement. So there's recommendations in the plan regarding how to conduct counts, how to make sure that any taxpayer money that's spent on bicycle improvements are actually leading to a return on investment. So you take some counts before a bike lane goes in. I know you guys have some new bike lanes on 98 there. And then you take counts periodically after that to see that if the new facilities are actually yielding results and people are actually walking and biking in areas where you've invested. Next slide. Again, this is a little bit of detail that went into our existing conditions. I won't spend too much, but as far as what we do a lot of desk-based work, so a lot of collision analysis. We do a number of stakeholder interviews. We had a sort of a listening session back, I want to say in April of 2017 with Imperial County Velo Club, folks from the community at large, members from the public health community, the San Diego State, Imperial Valley campus, et cetera. We go out and really drive a lot of the areas. We bike a lot of the areas to get a sense for the sort of ground truthing what we see from our desk-based research. And then we conducted a series of counts, I guess, as a way to, again, supplement that data that'll be used in subsequent applications to Caltrans and other funders.
Is our minimal collision small, like 9 that we had? Is that minuscule?
Yeah, so the question was on sort of the number of collisions. Rates of collisions, Calexico is actually very good for cities of its size. The Office of Traffic Safety breaks down cities throughout the state into categories based on size. So I believe you guys are in the smallest or second smallest category, and you're very, very good for collisions. I think some of that has to do, this is anecdotal, but I think some of that has to do with heat, and so maybe you don't have the rates of ridership that some of the other small cities may have. But I do think that the collision, no collision is good necessarily, but there are certainly cities that experience more collisions. Okay, next slide. So existing plans and policies, a lot of what's happened since 2003 has happened at the regional level. So SCAG has come out with guidance. ICTC funded a number of projects, one of which was a Safe Routes to School plan that looked at getting kids to walk and bike to school throughout all of Imperial County. So there were some recommendations for new bike lanes to serve, Rockwood Elementary and things like that. So what we did is we sat down and we looked through all these documents at all the things that have happened since the 2003 plan and added those to this plan so they're consistent across documents. The county itself adopted a bicycle master plan in 2011, I believe. That's the one in the lower left there. They're actually updating that now. Guidance on these sorts of things is in a perfect world. The city looks at this about every 7 to 10 years. So Calexico is at about 15, but I've certainly seen more, sort of longer time between adoptions. So, and then obviously the Border Port of Entry study that was commissioned by ICTC and SANDAG looked at all the border crossings in the state and looked at ways to improve bicycle and pedestrian access there. So we were able to take those recommendations and incorporate those as well. Next slide. So existing counts, based on discussion, and I'm sorry it's a little washed out on the screen, but based on discussions with Caltrans, they wanted to get a sense of where folks were riding. So we sat down with Lily and Caltrans representatives and came up with a number of count locations. And you can see that the largest counts were largely on the southern part of town. That's not too unexpected, I think, given this amount of activity and the land use patterns in the southern part of town. We do have some higher areas in the sort of the newer residential parts of sort of the northeast corner there. You'll have some relatively high counts. So we do have some nice baseline counts that as the city moves forward, these counts can be used. You can see Cesar Chavez is on there. We have some good counts there that were implemented before the widening, so we'll have a chance to monitor if Cesar Chavez is seeing an uptick in people riding bikes once the new project is completed. Next slide. Collisions. As where people are riding, that's a lot of where we're seeing collisions. This is probably not that unexpected. The idea here is that a lot of the collisions, when we reviewed them, and there's detail in the report, most of them were at intersections. You do see some mid-block, but intersections tend to be a very common place for collisions. A lot of times that's because You have turning movements that are unexpected. You have people, particularly in the southern part of town, that are maybe riding on sidewalks, because a lot of times people will only ride where they feel safe. And a lot of times if they're riding where there's no bike lane or there's no bike path, they'll ride on the sidewalk. And if you're a turning vehicle, you're not expecting a bike to jump off the sidewalk. So you get a lot of those collisions. Luckily, those are generally low-speed collisions and are non-fatal. But they, still a collision nonetheless, and you do have to obviously look to improve that. So that's a pretty good, all things considered, collision map relative to, I guess, what it potentially could be given the activity, especially on the south part of town.
And Cesar Chavez will be getting bike lanes northbound and southbound all the way to 98.
Correct.
Yes, so those collisions should...
They should go down. That's the hope. And I think, interestingly enough, when we were looking at that, that was one of the things that jumped out at us as Cesar Chavez is a great alternative to some of the, freeway.
Sorry for interrupting. I would assume accidents are correlated with traffic flow, correct? Or am I incorrect?
Generally, I mean, I think it's a very broad statement, but I do think that obviously you have to have people sort of on bikes and in cars to have those collisions. So there is a little bit of correlation with general activity levels. So I'll get to the modeling results here momentarily.
The reason why I bring it up is because you mentioned Cesar Chavez. That's going to be a major thoroughfare moving forward.
Right.
Yeah, but with bike lanes, so that's good.
Yeah. Okay, next slide.
And signals.
So here was sort of what we do is we put all these inputs and we just basically put it into a computer model, and this shows us where we should focus our efforts in terms of as we're designing activities. So what we do here is we look at collisions, we look at land use, we look at barriers. With a city like Calexico that has a number of high-speed, Caltrans facilities, you get some real challenges to riding a bike on, the freeway shoulder, the highway shoulder, that sort of thing. And also with canals, you have very limited places to cross the city. So you're sort of channelized into certain locations. So this is just generally a heat map that helps to guide our recommendations, and when we get to priority projects, you'll see that they tend to line up with this. Next slide. This is just a summary quickly of our outreach. A lot of our outreach that we got was through that first stakeholder meeting in about April, and then we had a booth there. You can see in the upper right that Lily and one of our junior engineers, who's actually a Mexicali native, and he was really excited to work on this project. I believe most of the outreach that day was conducted in Spanish, and was a chance for folks to weigh in on the recommendations. A lot of the recommendations that we heard from people dealt with, just like we talked about, the high-speed 98, 111 crossings. Cole Road came up, and we actually had a lot of feedback from sort of regional cyclists that passed through Calexico as part of a longer ride. So that's why you'll see a lot of the recommendations that some of the regional cyclists like to ride on being called out here, even though they may not necessarily be in Calexico for very long. They're sort of just passing through on their way. But a lot of the feedback that we heard had to deal with these sort of larger, wider facilities, most of which were Caltrans facilities. Next slide. Okay, so just quickly before I go into the types of recommendations, this is just a quick bike planning 101 slide. There's 4 types of sort of high-level tools in the Caltrans toolbox, and these are called the Class 1 bike path. So that's basically a separate facility that generally anywhere from 10 to 12 feet wide. They're technically multi-use paths, so you get people jogging, mothers pushing strollers, that sort of thing. But you also have, obviously, you can ride a bike on those. Those are the most expensive to construct. They require a little bit more right-of-way. They also have probably the greatest impact in terms of getting folks out and riding around, because it's a recreational facility. It's separate from traffic. You have none of the issues of crossing vehicles and sharing space with cars, and it's generally a much safer, much more comfortable facility. Class 2 bike lanes there in the lower left, those are generally a minimum 5-foot wide on-street facilities. So as of, when was 98 completed? Last 2 months. That would be sort of some of the first Class 2 bike lanes here in town. It is on a Caltrans facility. The idea there is to set aside anywhere from 5 to 6 foot facility for folks to ride a bike. A lot of our recommendations, in fact, all of our recommendations where we're recommending bike lanes do not have any parking impacts. That's something that we hear a lot of is, the only way to fit a bike lane is to remove parking. Calexico is lucky enough to have wide enough streets that you can accommodate on-street parking and a bike lane adjacent with very little, with no parking removal. So that's the thing we deal with a lot in urban environments where you have a very constrained right-of-way. Class 3 bike route, what that is, that's sort of a gap closure environment. That's in the upper right. Those are basically it's called a sharrow. It's a shared lane stencil with a bike stencil and a little directional chevron. Those are designed to close gaps. Those are, in a perfect world, those are for low speed streets, because what you're doing here is you're basically inviting cyclists to take the entire lane. The idea there is that it's a way to just sort of indicate a route beyond the simple green bike route sign that some of you may have seen. I think there's actually one right out in front of City Hall here. There's sort of a green bike route signage, but this is a way to put that marking in the middle of the roadway so that it's visible to cyclists and motorists. A lot of times motorists wouldn't recognize a sign sort of off to the right out of their field of vision, but this puts them right, it puts it right in the middle of the rightmost travel lane, and the idea there is to put it on low-speed streets and streets with relatively low vehicles. So much more of like a neighborhood facility versus sort of a bike lane or a path, which is much more of a regional facility. And the new idea and the new thinking is this Class 4 cycle track, which is in the lower right. And what that is, that's sort of an on-street bike path. Basically what you do is you use physical separation to put what would basically be a bike path, but you put it within the existing right-of-way of the street. The idea there is it can be one way in each direction, or it can be two-way on one side of the street. We do have a recommended opportunity, I guess, for a cycle track on Andrade. That's a new facility type from Caltrans, effective, I want to say 2 years ago. There's a number of these cycle tracks that have been rolled out throughout the state, and they really do serve a lot of the benefits of the bike path in terms of comfort, physical protection from vehicles, and all the benefits with quite a bit less cost and right-of-way acquisition and things like that. Okay, next slide. So here's the network, and I don't want to spend too much time on this as a whole because it's sort of hard to see at once, but really we've got a number of new facilities here and a number of facilities that were already in the 2003 plan. So what we've done is basically examine that. So let's go to the next slide and I'll show you. In essence, all of the things in red are things that came out from the 2003 plan. So you'll see a number of these facilities that are outside. They were included for whatever reason in the 2003 plan, in the Calexico plan, and they're actually in county land. So those are the jurisdiction of the county. So we've removed a lot of those facilities that are not Calexico's jurisdiction. You know, the sort of the western part of Cole coming into town on the 98, and then obviously as 111 sort of leaves town. And the other thing that we've done is we've also really gone over, and everything else that's not in red is either brand new to this facility map or was something that was already in the 2003 plan. Again, it's a little bit difficult to see on this map. But so what we've done is we think that the 2003 plan is largely pretty good. The one change would be the New River Parkway. That was something that's not in the 2003 plan. It's sort of a conceptual, oh, it'd be nice to have a bike path along the river there. The city has funding for a segment of that, and we have the official alignment, and it's been designed, so we've included that, and we really see that as a real like a catalyst project for that side of town. What we've done is we've sort of looked at some other streets that would work as ways to connect to staging areas to that with new bike lanes and really serve some of the neighborhoods immediately north of that New River Parkway path there with bike lanes and bike routes as a way to get directly to that facility without having to travel on some of the busier streets. The other piece that I mentioned is the cycle track on Andrade, and I'll get to that. So next slide. So here's a quick rundown of the facility by type. Some quick summaries on this. About a quarter of the total mileage that we're looking at for this would be Class 1 paths. Generally, those require significant outside funding because they are expensive. We have about half of the total mileage would be bike lanes, and that's listed there kind of by what streets they'd run on. And then the balance are Class 3 bike routes. Again, sort of low speed, low stress facilities on a number of places where you can basically take the lane without having to compete with excessive amounts of cars. Next slide. So here again is the bicycle support network. One of the things when I mentioned programs, we also look at bicycle parking as a component of this. So we went out and inventoried where municipal facilities, schools, parks, that sort of thing have bike racks. And one of the things that we want to do is we want to make sure that the plan recommends updating existing bicycle parking and then making sure that every school, every city-owned park, facility, you know, throughout libraries, things like that, have new bike racks. And so the idea there is you put it in the plan, give it kind of a unit cost, which is anywhere from $200 to about $500 per rack. And then the city can go out and say, hey, this is in our plan. Let's go ahead and find some funding for 10 bike racks at a cost of, you know, $5,000 or something like that. As you can see, there's a lot of sort of informal bike parking, particularly on this side of town, where folks will lock their bike to poles and signs and things like that. So we want to make sure that we formalize that as much as we can. for liability reasons, for safety reasons, for any number of reasons related to the sort of pedestrians walking through on the sidewalk. If you have a bike blocking it, you want to make sure that you site your bike rack in a way that makes sense. Next slide. So we take this sort of entire piece of the network, and again, most of it was developed in 2003 with some new additions to the New River Parkway and some of these other on-street facilities, and we sort of look at it from a prioritization standpoint. These are obviously sort of desk-based priorities, and at the end of the day, City Council is responsible for directing staff to move forward with any one of the 40 miles of projects that we've identified in this plan. Based on our sort of desk-based research in terms of population density, in terms of competitiveness for funding, this was sort of the highest, or sort of the phase 1 projects, kind of a mix of facility types, several sort of regional facilities, and then that Andrade cycle track that I'll talk about. But this is, again, subject to any number of discussions with council, and council would obviously have the ultimate say on what projects are brought forward. Next slide. So we also did a little bit of preliminary costing of what these initial sort of high-level costs would be for these particular facility types. It's kind of a very, very long-term funding estimate. We applied a pretty significant contingency to these because we weren't sure exactly when the city would seek funding. I would think that these numbers would be good for probably about 5 to 10 years, given current costs of paint and striping plans and engineers' billing rates and things like that. So these are very, these may look like big numbers now, but I'm very confident in saying this, it will not exceed any of these costs even for 10 years. Next slide.
Any issues with moving utility poles? And I was reading drainage.
Yeah,
Did
typically.
you take that into consideration if we have that problem?
So typically on-street facilities would not have any impacts with poles, unless you were to do some sort of curb extension or something as a component of a neighborhood greenway, but so no, the short answer is there'd be no issues with this because it's already within the existing roadway. Most of these projects are the sort of thing that can probably go in very cheaply upon resurfacing, or a widening project or something like that. If you widen, you can put the lanes in when the pavement's fresh. You don't want to spend money on a paint truck and then on an older roadway, and then 2 years later you're resealing it, that sort of thing. Next slide. So I want to talk briefly about New River Parkway. Kind of step through that. Folks on the council may be familiar with this, but I know there's some folks in the community that may not be. This is a sort of an aerial of the parkway. Next slide. Here's a conceptual layout of sort of how it's looked at phasing, and then we'll go to one more slide. This section in the box is an approximate boundaries of what the city has funding for currently. So as you can see, there's a little bit to the west, and then the majority of the eastern part of the parkway is unfunded. Estimates that I've seen would put that unfunded estimate at about $4 million. We've got about a 2.4 mile trail and about 3/4 of a mile is funded. So we've got some work to do on that. We've got about 1.6, 1.7 miles to go. Estimated cost on that, again, $4.4 million. The entire length of the project is designed, so this would be construction money. And I want to talk briefly about how we fund projects, whether it's a New River Parkway, bike lanes, et cetera. So next slide. So this is a map of Calexico overlaid against the biggest criteria that the state of California uses to allocate that gas tax money, and that's Cal EnviroScreen funding. So this was developed by the state of California and partner agencies back in, I want to say maybe 2011 was the first one of this. They're on the third iteration. This is a measure of statewide sort of pollution burden. The idea there is that they want to direct funding to areas that experience significant pollution burden. They want to direct funding to communities that maybe don't have local funds to do the heavy lifting involved in some of these constructions. So what they do is they sort of blend something like 40 different indicators. And as you can see, that area of the New River Parkway, the darker the red, the more competitive the project area. So you'll see that area kind of west and south of here is very, very competitive from a statewide funding source. But really, the entire city would be eligible for funding under Caltrans. So it's just a matter of what council decides to move forward with and as the applications come out. Next slide. So I'll just go over some of the other things that the state looks for when we're funding these projects. Cal EnviroScreen, the city of Calexico, is very competitive. Another criteria they look at is median household income of a particular census tract around a particular improvement. Very competitive in that as well. The idea there is that the median household income has to be about $51,000 or below. Safe routes to school criteria, what they do is the state looks at the number of schools in your city and they look at what % of those kids receive free or reduced meals. You want to be at about 75% or higher of the student population at a particular school receiving free or reduced meals to be competitive. And for the most part, Safe Routes to School projects are competitive. There are some schools that are very competitive, and there are some schools that are a little less so given their sort of economic background. Just a quick overview, the city or the state typically receives about 500 projects. Every time they do this call for projects, about 1/3 are approved. So it's a very competitive process. The state will fund anything over $250,000 up to $7 million. I think there's three categories here. I think Calexico would probably be best in the sort of 1.5 to, it's sort of the middle range. Of 7 million and up is sort of real catalyst projects in a slightly denser area, like Los Angeles has some river paths and things like that. So I think the state or the city would be very competitive in that sort of middle range. The biggest thing that's important about this upcoming cycle is there's no local match. In the past, the state required about a 12% minimum local match. In order to be competitive, you had to be about 20%. So for a $40,000 project, you'd be looking at $80,000 of either cash or local sales tax, staff time, et cetera. This round, because there's frankly more money for this sort of thing than there's ever been, there's no local match requirement. So it's a really good time for that. If the city decides to move forward with any projects in this round of funding, it does require a significant project-specific community outreach where you get together with the community, you explain some concepts, give them a chance to kind of weigh in and put their feedback. So another opportunity for the citizens to weigh in on the concepts of the plan. And again, the application period opens in May and applications are due in August. So it is a quick turnaround, and by adopting a plan today, it basically allows the city to say this is in our plan, it's a current plan, it's compliant with all of the requirements that the state asks of an active transportation or a bicycle master plan, and it allows for a more competitive project. Next slide. So again, just some high-level recommendations, sort of top-line recommendations from the plan. I think that this is probably the best time probably in history for the city of Calexico to look at funding from outside sources. One thing, just not to get too political about this, but SB 1 repeal may be on the ballot in November, and if SB 1 is repealed, the funding will go back to the original levels, but any projects that have been allocated under this funding cycle would be funded. So I think it's sort of strike while the iron's hot, I guess, for the world of bicycle planning. On-street recommendations, I think some of the top recommendations that we came out of are things down sort of that connect to the border port of entry, because that's where we saw our collision history, that's where we saw a lot of folks riding. Our counts validated that, our observations validated that. And then really too, I think one of the most important things is that the city also look at more than simply just putting paint on the ground and building paths. I think there's a lot that can be done for non-infrastructure programs, like I mentioned, for helmet giveaways or bicycle rodeos. And those are generally very, very, very inexpensive. Again, no local match required for that, but you can commission nonprofits to come out and do education for kids and things like that. So it's a really good time for the city to be thinking about this, and I believe that's my last slide, so I will take questions.
Boom. Good job.
Thank you. I'm sorry if it ran long. I know it's a long day.
Should have moved you up.
Well,
should have moved you up.
That's all right.
No, I love his energy at this hour. I wish I had that energy. I'm a little tired.
One time I presented after a high-speed rail meeting in Bakersfield.
I'm following you. I want to know
which
where you get
was, I would think I got
bars.
out of there at about 12:30 a.m. So this was. I presented after a high-speed rail meeting in Bakersfield. So high-speed rail is very contentious, and I mean, you think the public comment here was involved. It was probably 6 times.
We just talk about kitty cats.
Yeah. So high-speed rail was a little contentious, and then I'm just there with. It was just an information item too. So.
But honestly, I think it's important to really acknowledge the fact that the bicycle plan has been something we haven't had in all these years, and we do have a lot of people who want that. I have been asked that continuously throughout the years, so really happy that it actually happened. And no joke, you do have a lot of energy.
Well, thank you.
Really appreciate that, though.
That's Starbucks, when they were here giving it, I was like, well,
some of us
I
need to
appreciate it
switch
too.
to
I don't have a
decaf,
certificate
though.
for them, but I appreciate.
There was another speaker earlier. She probably could have appreciated switching to decaf, though. Yeah. Okay. All right, guys, thank you so much, though. That was awesome.
Thank you.
All right. That was a presentation that's important right now because actually we do need to discuss this, or
And
would you
move
guys
forward
just
on
like
it.
to be able to move forward?
Move forward on it.
Okay, because I do need an approval.
Oh, I will approve this plan, this excellent plan.
Okay. First by Mr. Hodge, second by Mr. Pacheco. All in favor?
Aye.
I will
Thank
also
you
make
very,
a
very much,
motion.
all of you.
Make a motion.
You're going to be happy bike riders.
I would like to make a motion. It's 9:30 to continue the meeting.
All in favor? Oh, I'm sorry, second? Does anybody have a second for that, to continue our meeting, because it's already 9:30?
There's a cutoff at 9:30, so we need a motion to continue the meeting or to.
Do you want that, city clerk, city attorney?
more would he have to
Are we
do?
okay?
We can,
You
we
know,
can table the
I
rest
know
of
there's
next
something
meeting.
on the books. I'm not really familiar with that. Gabby, I know there's something on the books where I think.
Yeah, 9:30, there's either a continue, yeah.
Oh.
So this was put on the agenda when our meetings went till midnight, so.
There's only two more
After
items.
9:30, we have the option to either leave it to the next agenda unless there's something pressing, but if not, the council can continue.
Yeah, very good.
I'm in tax season, so I'm tired already. So,
Yeah. I'll make that
It-
motion.
Number 15 should be
Second.
fast. If you would just do number 15, that would be very helpful for us to move forward. And it
Somebody
should
bring
be
a Starbucks. We have
very
two more
quick.
items.
Very quick.
All righty, number 15 then. Oh,
I did, but it's been rescinded right now.
no, it wasn't
Oh.
rescinded. What Mr. Real said was something completely different.
Oh,
I made the
Our
motion
vote
to.
stands with item number 14 as a.
no, I
as-
wasn't referring to that.
Oh, okay. But we're okay on item number 14?
Yes.
Clerk? Okay.
Yes.
We were going to begin item number 15, so let's go ahead and, you want to go ahead and reiterate your?
I'll make the motion to continue the meeting.
Okay, second?
Aye?
Aye.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
So we're going to go ahead and continue. Item number 15, award the bid proposal from Control System Engineering, Inc. in the amount of $1,103,000, and authorize city manager to sign construction agreement with Control Systems Engineering, Inc. for replacement of filter control at water treatment plant project number 2018-300.
This is a capital improvement project that I've been bringing to you, and we did get the bid, and it's well within the ascribed budget of 1.6 million that we had set aside for it.
How many bidders did we get on
We
this?
only got one, but this is a very specialized, it's very specialized work.
Okay. Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, first by Mr. Real, second by Mr. Hodge. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, moving on to a public hearing.
Going to do this?
Do we have anybody from the speakers? I'm going to you want to say some comments before?
I thought we continued.
30 seconds.
Thank you, Mr. Morales.
Take a listen to that. To start off with, I'm requesting that ordinance number 1182 be pulled, and then we'll be bringing that ordinance back to the city council as a public hearing. So basically, this is the second reading for ordinance number 1181 that pertains to the ADUs or the accessory dwelling regulations. It was brought to the council at the last meeting. And so basically what it's doing is that the state passed a law to allow a second dwelling on the R1 zone. And so what staff has done, they have modified some of the things that the state presented to the jurisdictions, which the state is allowing the cities to do that. One of the things that that staff is doing is requesting that in the R1 zone, in order to be able to put in a second unit, then the property owner has to live within the premises. They don't have to live in the primary residence. They can live in the ADU. There are two assembly bills that talks about this. Assembly Bill 2406. I don't know, should it be? I guess I can finish my presentation before it goes into public hearing. Anyway, 2406 does talk about how it requires a owner occupant in a single-family residence to dwell within the residence, and that is for a junior ADU. There is another Assembly Bill, 2299, that even though it doesn't say that a resident or the primary owner has to live in the residence, it does recommend that the jurisdiction can go ahead and put that into place.
Are those bills passed?
Those bills are passed, yes.
Okay.
There are bills that have been passed. So basically, what we're looking at is that these bills were put together for the reason that during the housing crash.
Were they passed before the ADU or after the ADU?
These are for the ADUs.
So the ADU includes that, that verbiage in there? Saying, so the state ADU ordinance says, the state ADU ordinance says that it has to be owner occupied?
The section for the junior ADUs does require that the owner live within the
But that's a junior ADU, but what about an ADU?
The other ADU, it doesn't require them that the owner has to live there. It does make mention that the jurisdiction has the privilege
Yeah,
to
well,
allow
obviously the ADU that passed in the state, the city can, has the authority to kind of tweak it however it wants.
Yes, sir.
But my thing is this, my thing is when I get, not just one, but several developers start saying, hey, how come the city of El Centro, I'm doing ADUs, they're not, you know, there's a lot of landlords in this city. I mean, you have people that own hundreds of properties and it's just one owner. And their thing is, you know, if I'm making more, bringing more tax money to the city by building, speaking of permit fees, fire inspection fees, building fees, raising taxes because the property value obviously is going to go higher with the granny flat on the unit or an ADU, whatever. I'm old school, I still call them granny flats. Why is the city putting these requirements and why are we not allowing the city to grow? Those ADU units can bring more families into the city that in turn can shop here, you know, bring more activity to the city. What I'm trying to get to my council is that why are we putting more red tape on this instead of just adopting it like the state did it the same way El Centro and other cities have without putting, it seems like we always want to stop the growth. That's my
Well, probably
my
because you're putting this in a residential area.
This is
And not everybody likes granny flats. Because granny flats brings more congestion of in the
Traffic.
neighborhood.
Parking
So then you do have to regulate because you have families and homeowners that don't want that. They'd rather live in a residence where everyone is just a single family.
If you understand, if you don't understand it, the state passed it that way. So you can't even tell them that they can't do it.
Right, but
whether you like it or not,
No, it's
it's
because
not
you're
up to
asking
you.
why we put so many regulations, but it is because not
Because
everyone,
Calexico always wants to
not
overregulate
everyone wants to enclose their garage. Not everyone.
This is not a garage enclosure, this is an ADU. It's an
Or ADU,
accessory
yes.
dwelling unit.
An
It has
an
nothing to do with
ADU
garage
is-
enclosures.
I meant to say an additional family on the property.
An ADU is in three forms. It can be a detached unit in the backyard. It could be an addition to the existing residence, and it can also be a
Enclosure?
unit within the main residence. So in the main, and that's what you call a junior ADU. In the main residence, basically you can divide your house, and you could put a unit within the main residence.
My
So-
understanding is, and I completely agree with things. For example, if you're gonna convert your garage,
Yeah,
you
just
have a
gonna say
two-car
that.
garage, then you should have to find a way to find another 2-unit parking for that. And I know the city is adamant about having people construct sheds or something of that nature to be able to have 2 other cars being stored. But we're not talking about garage conversions, we're talking about ADUs. And ADUs,
A garage enclosure could also be an ADU.
if it's a garage enclosure is considered an ADU as well?
I was just gonna ask that.
Yes.
Well,
And that,
if an ADU is a garage enclosure, then I completely understand you need the extra parking. But if it's a granny flat, my understanding is, according to the state, as long as there's a bus stop within, I think, 4 miles, that you can't ask them for
I think
additional
it
parking.
called more like 4 blocks than
4
4
blocks
miles.
or something like that.
Yeah.
So my thing is, I'm for growth. I want the more building that we get in the city, the better, as far as I'm concerned. You know, it's like looking at Times Square and saying, well, you know, if they would have kept this small, you know, you can't stop the growth. I don't care how much we want to. That's why Calexico is the way it is, because we don't allow the growth. That's my 2 cents. But
Well,
again,
the reason behind staff making this recommendation is because one of the, overseeing code enforcement as well, one of the biggest complaints that we get is that on the illegal structures or rentals that they have.
that I agree with you. Illegal structures are a whole nother
Yeah,
story.
but those that will now become legal, and now those will continue to have the same problem, is that one of the biggest problems is that we have vehicles that are parking on the street. And so that creates a lot of congestion when you have that. So if you have a community, or you have a block, and they all now are allowed to put a unit in the back, and even though the owner of the property does not live there, then you will create a lot of congestion. So that would create a problem.
I would just like to, in reference to that, and I don't know if anybody on the city council has lived in any other cities in apartments or in condominiums. Nowhere near does Calexico have the parking issues that downtown San Diego, downtown LA, or anything like that has, where you have to park literally a mile away. We're not even close to that. Okay. So, you know, I think it's prohibiting growth. That's what I think.
Alrighty, so
and again, I'm just saying
comments?
we should adopt it the way the state wrote it, and
This is a second reading, right?
This is a second reading.
Okay.
So if it gets approved tonight, then it goes into, it will go into effect within 30 days.
I would like to make a
City Attorney,
motion.
do I need to open up for public?
The public hearing, yeah. We'll open up the public hearing for any public comments that we have on the item, correct?
Clerk, but I'm gonna open up. I can't tell what time it is.
It's wrong.
9:40.
Public hearing open at 9:40. Okay. Any comments in favor of item number 16, continuance of public hearing, second reading and adoption of zoning text amendment? According to City Clerk, there is no public comments in favor or against. Any comments here on council? Did you want to make a comment? Would you please, if you'd like to make the comment, come up here so we can hear you? And just state if you're for or against.
Ben Horton, and this in reference to the real estate side of the house. When we talk about changing something that the state sends down or they approve, how is it going to affect us if we're different than the other cities? Have the other cities in the valley made modifications on it? Mr.
Morales.
Morales, sorry.
No.
We can't ask a question?
It's generally supposed to be a public comment. I mean, I think after we close public hearing, staff or city council can address your question.
In reference to my comments is, other cities have had to look at this. Have they made any modifications? If so, what type of modifications did they make? If they did not make any modification, I think we would like to look at why they didn't make any modifications to it. And I'm just looking, because if you're doing real estate, and which I do, and you're going to be listing properties on multiple listing, how is that going to affect the ability of marketing the property if the city has something different than someone? So in other words, when you have the listing, you're going to have to say, well, Calexico has this is why it's this way. And if you look at the National Board of Realtors, they have certain requirements in reference to that. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments, public comments? Or
Just with regards to the real estate side, from being a, okay.
Alrighty, in order to be able to move on to the council comments, I'm going to go ahead and close public comments at 3. Okay, Mr.
Just with the real estate, you know, any house that has an ADU or a granny flat obviously has more value, which brings more tax revenue to the city. Again, that's just my opinion.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Ralph, was the issue with parking also, was that a factor that came into this? It limits?
Well, the issue is more the aesthetics of what it's going to look like. We know that if the property owner lives on the property, they will take more care of the property. If it's an absentee owner that they don't live on the property, usually what happens is that then the carrying of the property is not there as much as somebody that lives on it and makes sure that the tenants are taking care of it. The parking does come into effect, but the state law, as has been brought out, says that ADUs will be allowed, and so we have to kind of work with that. Our biggest concern is that if the whole block does it, whether owners live there or not, or if you have the majority that are rentals, then you're going to have vehicles parked on the line, you're going to have vehicles parked out on the street, and that will create a problem. And that's one of the concerns or complaints that we get from the community, that they call and they say, hey, my neighbor next door has a garage enclosure and there's 4 or 5 cars parked out on the street. And so it's bad enough when there's one of them, but when you have the whole block doing it, then that creates a problem. You have to understand,
It's
and
a public
true,
street.
That in large cities, yeah, they do that, and they don't have any parking. But large cities don't have that luxury of saying, hey, you got to put parking, because they don't have the properties like Calexico does. We have the privilege that we have a lot of open land, and we can put those restrictions. Now, it's true that El Centro went ahead and adopted the ADU just as the state put it out. I checked with other cities, and I went as far as the city of Fremont and some other cities surrounding it, and they have restrictions. Even though they're large cities, they have restrictions, and their restriction is that the owner has to live on the property in order to be able to do an ADU. And one of the reasons was because what happened is with the crash of housing is that a lot of people were homeless, and you had a lot of people that were losing their home because they weren't able to make the mortgage. So the state came out with the idea and said, hey, we're going to allow ADUs so that property owners can now have an income, so it will subsidize their payment, and people that are having a difficult time to find a house now can find these houses. And again, these were areas like San Francisco, LA, and large cities that didn't have the housing. But again, we gotta, staff is looking at this from different directions.
Let me ask this. First of all, what's going to stop this? Let's be realistic here. Somebody's going to come to you and say, whether you like it or not, they're going to lie to you. They're going to tell you, oh, yeah, I live there. Whether they're landlords or not, and what are you going to do? You can't move from that house because then your ADU is no longer permissible. Again, do we have the staff to be checking on this? To go knock on everybody's house? Hey, we just want to make sure you live here because we allowed you to do an ADU last year. Look, come on, please. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, and you're right. You're right. I mean, we don't have the staff to be able to go out there and monitor. But again, what we do have is that they will have to sign a covenant, and the covenant says that they have to live on the property, and if not, what will happen is that the kitchen will have to be removed from the ADU. Again, and you're right. We're short on staff. We're you know, and it's going to make it difficult, and there will be those that do fall through the crack. But again, there is a mechanism out there that will help to do this.
We're saying the owner must live on the property.
They must live on the property.
This is all based on affordable housing, bottom line, right?
On
It's all based on affordable housing. And I agree with you as far as bringing revenue to a city and increasing property values, which increase property tax, which ultimately will increase taxable income for the county and for our city. I think we're missing the boat in one key aspect. And again, I talked about kudos to city employees because we were 280 and now we're 140 plus or minus. We're doing more with less. But having said that, this is what happens in Calexico, and it frustrates me significantly. And that is, we focus on one issue, yet we're not really seeing the big picture, and the big picture is urban planning. If you look at this is basically an urban planning issue.
It is.
It's based on affordable housing, but if you don't bring the urban planning concept to it, you get crap. And that's what I brought up specifically with Mr. Villa. We were doing, when they were doing the improvements to Highway 98. Because any type of modifications to construction cause delays, and that would cause significant issues to our business community. I basically kept quiet. But at the end of the day, is Highway 98 a beautifully or aesthetically pleasing avenue? The answer is absolutely not. We don't have any aesthetics in Calexico. Whether we love the city or hate the city, at the end of the day, and I love it, there is no aesthetics to this frickin' city. And when you talk about affordable housing and we talk about ADUs, it's part of the urban planning concept. So if we don't include urban planning to any type of development, we're missing the boat. And it's only this ADU issue is only part of the urban planning concept that Calexico has really never focused on.
So,
my 2 cents, like Mr. Real said. What I'm trying to say is any type of
I understand
development that we're bringing to our city needs to include some sort of urban planning concept.
So we
And
move
this one is
forward
focused
this?
specifically on revenue streams, which I completely agree with, yet we're not thinking about aesthetics such as a filled street with cars, with no parking, et cetera, et cetera. So it's like we're like this instead of being like this. And urban planning, community growth need to go hand in hand. And again, we continue to miss the boat.
So what this is purporting is, in your estimation, a component of urban planning?
But again, I agree with Mr. Real. We're fighting over something that we can't fight over. Whether we agree with it or not, it's a state mandate, period. In the
Correct.
So, but what I would like to see in Calexico, and again, we have significant financial constraints and employee constraints, but we need to think outside the box and look at the aesthetics as well when we look at any development of our city. Now, again, this might be an inappropriate time because this is a state mandate that we really don't control. Whether we like it or not, we don't control it.
No, but we're able to put some requirements on it, is that correct?
And Mr. Real made some wonderful points. I mean,
Yes.
how are we going to police it? And again, it's
You know how
10
you police
10
it?
to 9.
With your neighbors. The neighbors that go and say, they're doing something. That's usually what ends up happening too, is that they report it, don't they? Because we do not have eyes everywhere, but you have very friendly neighbors out there that'll let you know. All right, gentlemen, since it's very late tonight, and I know that tonight is the continuance of this public hearing, I need some guidance from legal so that we can move on. I know that we've talked a lot, and it's an amazing conversation here, and a lot more to talk about probably.
What would be?
But what steps do we go ahead and take here at this point? We've
this
already
point-
closed the public hearing. Do we need an approval on this, or it was just that all that we needed to do?
At the second reading, it's up for adoption, second reading. So either one, you guys can approve the item, which would adopt it tonight and be effective 30 days from the day. If you want to, continue it, think about it. If we do want to amend it, then we have to start the process again.
Okay,
because
city
it's a
clerk and city
second
attorney,
reading.
I only have public hearing. I don't have anything about adopting it. So is that going to be the natural process after this public hearing?
In the recommendations, it does reference adoption of the
So
ordinances.
then I'm going to go ahead and ask for that motion.
I want to ask the city manager what he thinks on this. It's gone to planning and it's gone to.
Planning didn't approve this. That's why it came to the council, correct?
No. It went through planning.
It went to planning, okay.
And it was approved by planning.
It was approved both by planning and the Development Review Committee.
Mr. Dale?
This one, I defer to your judgment.
I would like to, let's do this. I would like to make a motion to continue this item to the next
Yeah, maybe you
council
need to help
meeting
us to be briefed a little bit.
and have not just David Dale, but also our economic development, Miguel, look at it, because, it has to do with economic development as well. We could be bringing a lot more people to the
More
city,
public works.
living to the city, so.
Alrighty, so
let's-
we do want to go ahead and continue then the item?
Yeah, I think we need more
Okay,
time
so
on
then as
this.
far as the public hearing, completing the public hearing, we have completed that, right? That is done. So at this point, then, the motion is to continue the actual voting
I'm
to
sorry.
approve the item, correct?
I'm sorry, my motion is to table, because continue would.
Table the item for no decision on approval tonight until later, correct?
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Discussion or no
we're-
discussion?
Yeah, if we table it, it would take it off the agenda, and right now, because
So we want it for the next agenda, so continue then. I'm
if
sorry.
we're going to
Okay.
continue it, I
Make a
continue to the
motion to
next
continue.
agenda, correct.
I will second that motion.
Can I
Okay,
ask
first
a
motion-
question first?
Sure.
We had this advertised and we had some cost involved. We re-advertise this and another cost?
No, if it's continued, it doesn't have to be advertised.
Okay.
Okay.
And Ralph, the ordinance 1182, will that be brought back as,
That will be brought at that time. That
Okay.
will be publicized.
okay,
Thank
You
you.
ready?
okay, bring it back?
I
We
second.
need a
Motion
motion.
by Mr. Real.
Aye.
No, it was motion by Mr. Real, second by Mr. Hodge.
Oh.
All in
Aye.
favor, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Alrighty. Thank you so much. Future agenda items, gentlemen, I am really tired, I have to admit, but does anyone have any?
Really quickly, the employee handbook hasn't been,
Did you say handbook?
the employee handbook has not been revised since 1994. That's shameful, it's embarrassing, and we need to look into that, so I would like to bring it as an agenda item.
Alrighty, Mr. Pacheco?
Nothing.
Mr. Real?
No.
Alrighty, me either.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Aye.
Council meeting is done.